Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Travis Hunter, joined as always by my co-host, my sister, and my brother-in-law.
Hi, I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
This week, we're broadcasting live from the Stonefish Bar discussing the 1999 J-horror film, Audition. This film was directed by Takashi Miike off a script from Daisuke Tengan based on the novel of the same name by Ryu Murakami. Combining elements of drama, romance, and extremely unsettling horror, Audition shocked and satisfied global audiences upon its release, garnering numerous festival awards and accolades. Its influence can be felt in various horror films in the years since its release, and it is now widely regarded as a modern horror classic. This film was suggested to us by friends of the show, Christina Rice and Kristen Lofton. This film was also the winner of our June Patreon poll, so thank you to all of our patrons who participated and voted. If you'd like to help us decide an episode, join us over on Patreon at patreon.com/thepodmortem. So, Audition. What were your first impressions on the film?
Big surprise, but I don't remember the first time I watched it. I do know that I've seen it several times though, and it became one of those movies where if I had a friend, I'd be like, you gotta I need to know how you feel about this. It was like a litmus test film for me? Yeah, but I loved it since the first time I watched it. And I feel like seeing it now, like in the lens of reviewing it or whatever, it's kind of different to me. And I guess touch on it a little bit. John Paul made a comment while he was watching it, and it I can't get it out of my head.
Okay.
And so we're going to have to unpack it later, but
Is it film breaking?
it could be.
Well, shit.
And maybe I'm dumb and this is something that everybody's thought this whole time and I'm just behind because it would not be the first time. But we're gonna have to talk about it, and I want to know everybody's thoughts on it one way or the other. But
I can't wait.
to answer the question, I really love this movie. I loved it the first time I saw it and I still love it now.
I also don't remember. But I know I have seen it, like your sister said, a few times. And it did as well for me. Watching it again, I was like, man, this just feels a little different. And I do like the movie.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I feel it's more for me like the rewatchability, you know, because it's good those first few times. And then now you know everything that's going to happen. And then it's just kind of like, all right.
Then you're just waiting for it?
Yeah, and you're just kind of waiting for it. So that did, I'm not going to lie, that did hurt it for me a little bit. But I do enjoy the movie. And if you haven't seen the movie, please watch it. Because it is worth that, you know what I mean, first couple of watches.
It's more of a slow burn than I remembered it being. Now, I love a good slow burn, so that's not a negative for me. John Paul's making fun. Yeah. That doesn't bother me. I just didn't remember it starting so slowly.
I've seen a lot of people complain about that.
Really?
I personally, I'll dig on a slow burn.
So then I'm not the only one.
No, you're not.
Complaining about it.
Personally, I think that it's one of the best versions or examples of a slow burn that I can think of.
All right.
Because once it takes that turn, you're like, what the
No, you're just you're in for a ride. Yeah.
The thing about that turn though, and obviously we'll get to it, but I feel like more than any time, me watching it this time, I see the groundwork that's being laid for that turn. Mm-hmm. And I had never seen that before because like I really didn't. You know what? I think I'm joining you guys not at all remembering the first time I saw this movie.
No, because you do when we first. I remember the first couple of times because I know we watched it together.
You're like, holy shit.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, that's fucking, you know, like, damn. But then now, I'm like, did I watch this movie?
And we're all just like warging out.
Yeah, the thing is, I do clearly remember watching and loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And personally, I still love this movie a lot.
No, yeah.
And I think that the funny thing to me is that the first time I watched this movie, there is a music video from My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
Honey, this mirror isn't big enough for the both of us because every fucking band had to have like Fall Out Boy style titles back then. But that video is basically Audition the movie. But whenever it came time for me to watch Audition, I knew that music video.
Right.
So I was like, what the fuck is happening?
They stole from My Chemical Romance.
How dare they? But the other way around. But the thing is that I hate to compare it to this, but I kind of compare it to Life is Strange a little bit. in the aspect that once it takes a turn, it takes that turn, but then the rewatchability versus, replayability, it's about kind of revisiting characters that you're interested in more than it is about being surprised again.
Right.
Oh, for sure. And it's one of those things, like, I watch so many movies and read so many books that going back and watching stuff, sometimes if it's been long enough, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't remember that.
Right.
You fucking remember. You don't forget the ending of Audition.
No.
You don't forget the twist of Audition. So that's a good point. You're really kind of like, let's see how, how far back they were telling us something
Right.
rather than, oh, what's going to happen, because you fucking know. You didn't forget.
Yeah.
No. And for me, because it's not about being shocked anymore, it allowed me to really look at the craft at hand.
Right.
And like the filmmaking and just be impressed by that.
Yeah.
And the performances.
No, yeah.
Holy shit. I did want to make mention, I know you, Nay, also read the novel in preparation for this.
I did.
I feel like it's one of those rare cases where the film is way better than the novel.
All right.
What's that?
Yeah, I mean it is. But I really enjoyed the novel if that's all you have.
No. I think it's incredibly faithful on one hand.
It is.
And then on the other hand, it improves upon it so much it's almost unbelievable.
I would say that the film is definitely scarier.
Mm-hmm.
And the novel is almost like you're reading a rom-com with a couple moments of
wait a minute.
No,
I
it's
remember
fine.
you
It's
were
fine.
telling
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
It's like a Doki Doki Literature Club situation.
That's fair.
Where after a certain point you're like, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Of course I had seen the film before I read the book, but had I not, I feel like that would have been like, what the fuck
yeah.
am I reading?
Maybe that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Because we already know, we're like, okay, when's it coming?
Yeah.
Looking at our watch.
You're just waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Mm-hmm. It is funny to me, though, that 2 weeks in a row we're talking about films where the ending overshadows
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
that came before it. But it's not fair, I don't think.
No. I mean, the whole film is great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you come away with the ending for sure.
Now, before we take a wire saw to this film, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Pod Mortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, let's wait by the telephone. So I do want to offer a short disclaimer before we begin. I'm going to do my best on name pronunciation. I am not of Japanese descent, and I really want to do my best. I looked it up and everything. I'm going to try.
You got this.
I hope so. So, the film opens with the sound of chatter as a young Shigeko Aoyama, played by Yuto Arima, walks down a hospital hallway holding an art project that he's made. Written in the eye of a flower on the project is, "Dear Mom, get well soon."
Oh.
Very sad already.
Yeah.
Like, damn it.
I know. In a hospital room, though, the doctor requests that the head nurse stays in the room, which is not a good sign.
No.
We see Ryoko, Shigeyuko's mother, played by Miyuki Matsuda, in bed hooked up to all sorts of machines. Her husband, Shigeru Ayama, played by Ryo Ishibashi, looks on very despondent. I did see in an interview, and it's odd, I see this a lot, but Ryo Ishibashi does not like horror films.
Yeah, I saw that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He only agreed to do this film because he wanted to work with Takashi Miike.
All right.
I mean,
He's like, I'll
Well,
trust your vision.
yeah.
but that's interesting because isn't he in The Grudge?
Yes.
The American Grudge?
Maybe he turned them all around on the subject. He's
It's
like,
all right.
That's not so bad.
Right.
One thing I did want to point out about Takashi Miike is dude is one of the most prolific filmmakers I've ever fucking seen.
Yeah.
This year alone in 1999, he made 3 films and a TV show.
Damn.
Like,
He bangs them out. like
Yeah. He was
crazy.
working.
yeah, I think he's made, I kind of envy that fucking work ethic, but I think he's made over 100 films directed.
Shit.
And there was a time when he was making like 6 films a year.
God damn.
I'm
At what time do you have to sleep or
Yeah.
do
None.
anything?
Sit down, Takashi.
Right.
Because making a movie can't be easy.
No.
Like, there's got to be tons of shit
Yeah.
to do.
And they said the production on this film was 3 weeks, which they said normally for a Miike film, it's 2 weeks. I'm like, well, just made me laugh. I'm like, dude, this guy's a killer.
That's insane. I know that he's been super influential on some directors that we've discussed here,
Yes.
including Rob Zombie and and Eli Roth.
So my favorites.
Your favorite horror directors.
Right.
He would this. I think this is the film that influenced Hostel.
Right.
So
I mean, you take the good, you take the bad.
I don't.
But back to the hospital room. Ryoko stares off, unresponsive, as Aoyama grabs her hand and calls her name. She squeezes it weakly, and we watch as her heart rate begins to steadily decline. In the hallway, Shigehiko greets a passerby, blissfully unaware of what's happening inside the hospital room. Back in the room, we see Ryoko is flatlining. The doctor checks her pupils with a flashlight in an overhead shot, and after receiving no response, just coldly gives his condolences to Aoyama, and then he just whispers the time of death to the head nurse, and then they just leave.
he's like, "Look, sorry, brah.
Yeah. He's like, I gotta check this dude's leg in the other room.
Okay, peace."
Yeah.
They're just gone.
I was thinking as a doctor, like, that's gotta be the weirdest shit.
Yeah.
Like, well, some dude in the way his eye hurts, so I gotta go look at that.
Now I gotta
after.
go over here.
Yeah.
Sorry, your wife's dead.
Yeah.
Damn, is that how that works?
I'm not a doctor.
T, in your practice, is that what happened?
That's why they shut it down. But Aoyama, now a widower, sobs at his wife's bedside. That is not a good transition from...
But anyway.
Yeah. I do want to point out, I love the music that plays here.
Yeah.
It has almost like an ethereal quality. It kind of reminded me of like something out of Silent Hill.
Yeah.
All right.
And I feel like they use a lot of very romantic piano in this film.
Yeah.
There's a score that kind of plays throughout. I can't remember if it's here or just later in the film, but it is very, very close to the theme from Haunting of Hill House.
Really?
That kind of haunting piano that plays in the show. It reminds me so much of that.
I do remember you asking me about
I was like, do you remember the score from Hill House? No. I'm like, okay.
Sorry.
And I love the score from Hill House, and
Yeah.
I didn't even catch it. I gotta go back now. But we hear the door open, and Aoyama turns to see Shigehiko in the doorway holding his gift for Ryoko. He tells his father that he brought it for his mom, and Aoyama just sinks to the floor. We cut to the two of them walking down the street of Tokyo, holding hands, and on the right side of the screen, we get the title, Audition. So as you see, this film begins very upbeat.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was... He's kind of chill, huh? He just kind of sat there on the floor for a second.
Well,
I mean, I would hope that you'd be a little more dramatic.
he did sob a second ago. Maybe he had just a few
second.
tears to spare.
Yeah.
Then
He's
get back to work.
dehydrated.
Yeah.
I did think that it's really smart to begin the film here.
No, yeah.
I know in the novel, Ryoko is dead already, and
Yeah.
they kind of just talk about her.
Damn.
Well, yeah, because then you avoid the situation where they're sitting and eating, and he's like, "Hey, you remember when Mom died 7 years ago?"
Like, wow, no, I forgot.
No, son, tell me more.
But I do like that. I feel like it kind of allows for her presence to be,
Over the film.
even when she's not around. But we then get a shot of the ocean along with on-screen text that reads, 7 years later. The waves crash against the rocks as Aoyama fishes with his son, now a teenager, played by Tetsu Sawaki. Aoyama's like, okay, the water is too much, wrap that shit up, B. And he's not wrong. Those waves
No,
are...
hell
yeah.
He's like, we're going to die, son.
It looked cool, but I don't want to be next to it.
No, I'll watch from afar, from the pier. But he turns to Shigehiko, reeling in a fish, taunting him for his lack of luck. Aoyama retorts that he's only after the big ones, and then Shigehiko changes the topic, saying that he prefers real women to imaginary fish. I was like, damn,
Fucking roasting him.
that was abrupt. But Aoyama, with big dad energy, tells him that he'll understand more about love when he's older. It's like, all right, I guess.
Whatever, Dad.
I did want to point out, I think that this is kind of a fairly on-the-nose metaphor with them fishing.
For sure.
You know?
Fish in the sea.
Exactly. Fish in the sea. You tell someone they're a good catch.
Yeah.
Sushi dates.
Right.
That one might be a stretch. I just want to go on a sushi date. But Aoyama's phone begins to ring, and he answers it, telling the person on the other end that he's finished working on his plan and that he'll share it with them tomorrow. Suddenly, his line gets tight as he hooks a fish, and he rushes off the phone and reels in a big one as his son watches. As the two walk off together, Aoyama says the fish is so big, in fact, that they'll share it with someone called Reneé.
I thought he threw his phone down, and then I was like,
no,
and it was dang out.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, that fool just threw his phone.
He really wants to reel in that fish.
He has to prove his son wrong. But we then cut to a shot of the now cooked fish as Shigehiko tears that shit up, portioning it for the both of them.
Yeah.
It looked very good.
Hell yeah.
It did look very good.
Don't watch movies when you're hungry, folks. But then he's like, hey, fun fact. Did you know that the black sea bream starts out as a male and then they become either male or female? Sidebar, according to a little side research, he has it backwards, but go off. Aoyama's like, what about this fish? And Shigehiko reminds him that they saw the fish's ovaries, and he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. It's like
okay.
Cool. But he's like, oh, I don't know much about that. I thought it was kind of odd, obviously, that little conversation, but then I was like, hey, maybe it's a precursor to the dynamics in the film regarding men and women.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I don't know why this is here.
No.
Yeah, especially when it just ends with him like, yeah, I don't know anything about it.
All right, then.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it, son. But this is when things kind of get real. Shigehiko tells his father that he's been looking a little worn out recently, and after feeding a bit of fish to Gangu, the family dog, he asks him why he hasn't remarried.
Kids will really just tell you about yourself.
But he's not. I feel like this is the behavior that like a 9-year-old could get away with, but he's like 17. He's like, why are you so lonely, Dad?
Not even that. He's like, Dad, you look like shit.
Yeah.
That's tough. You can't do that.
I think I asked your sister about this too, because I was like, damn, he just came out of nowhere with it.
He's like, while you're enjoying your fish.
Yeah.
I thought that was very odd.
I need a new mom.
Okay.
But Aoyama, clearly a bit blindsided by the question, eats his food without answering. Shigehiko thanks him for dinner, placing the dishes in the sink and reminding his father that it's his turn to do the dishes as the shot lingers. Now, not to get up my own ass with the cinematography, but I do want to say that this scene is shot mostly at a distance from the living room.
Yeah.
And to me, it kind of evoked a sense of detachment.
I can see that for sure.
All right.
For sure.
And I feel like that fits Aoyama, especially with what he's feeling as a widower.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, interesting.
To expound on your profound cinematography,
Nope.
comment. Yeah. In the novel, the dog's name is Gangsta.
That is true. I don't know why that made me laugh as I was listening to the audiobook and he's like, and Gangsta. I was like, wait a minute.
Should have left that in.
You should have.
But we then cut to him finishing up the dishes in a shot that goes on a little longer than it probably needs to. I didn't know if it was trying to sell like how mundane his life is, but in the next scene, we see Aoyama at an office with a man called Director, played by Kin Mitsuishi. They're reviewing footage of what appears to be a concert or some kind of public gathering. Mm-hmm. Aoyama, however, compares it to a cult.
It's just a mosh pit, man.
Yeah. He's like, this is a cult.
Like, I hate this.
Yeah. I was like, is this like the old generation commenting on the new generation?
Right.
Probably.
That's what I got out of it.
Because he was not kind.
Yeah.
But the director tells him, he's like, maybe it is. And then he's like, well, they're just lonely like everyone in Japan. When Aoyama asks him if he's also lonely, he's like, well, hell yeah.
Did you not hear what I just said?
Am I in Japan? Yes. But then he asks Aoyama if he's lonely, and then the scene just kind of ends. In the next shot, though, Aoyama is collecting his things from his office to leave for the day when his secretary, played by Yuriko Hiroka, tells him of a change in his schedule for the following day. He says it's no problem and that he's going to be gone for the rest of the day as he plans to meet with his friend Yoshikawa. As he heads for the elevator, his secretary follows very closely behind him. She tells him that she's going to be getting married soon, and he congratulates her. He wishes her the best, then gets on the elevator, but then we get a lingering shot of her looking very upset.
Immediately, I'm like, what? What's the story? What happened?
There's some tea here.
There is, and I'm just standing here with my cup.
I'm like, please, sir. Yeah. It gets explained later because at this point I'm like, is it unrequited? Is it,
That's how I read it, was that she is like, I'm getting married, hoping he'd be like, but wait.
He's like, but I love you.
And he's like, oh, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I'm meeting my friend at the bar. I just told you. Don't you have work to do?
Why are you still here?
But in the next scene, we see Aoyama meeting his friend Yasuisa Yoshikawa, played by Jun Kimura, at a bar. I was like, why does this guy look familiar? And I finally placed it. He is Boss Tanaka in Kill Bill.
God damn it.
Yes.
Yes, he is.
And it hit me and I was like, all right.
Yes, he is.
The funny thing is I did read about Tarantino. He listed this as one of his favorite films, I think, from 92 on.
Yeah, he called it a masterpiece.
And he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He also, well, I don't want to say stole. I guess you could say hired. He's like, you're with me now. No. But he hired the lead guy from the makeup department from Audition to do the special effects on Kill Bill.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
So just a little fun fact. But Aoyama and Yoshikawa talk business. Yoshikawa tells him that his business, filmmaking, wasn't hit at all by the recession. And Aoyama's like, really? And he's like, hell no.
What are you, stupid?
Do you live here or not? But he tells him that they have a lot of plans and he hopes that they stay in business long enough to see them through. Aoyama reminds him that he said the same exact thing last year. And they're like, I guess,
Yeah.
But just then, a party of women in the other room bursts out laughing, which really annoys Yoshikawa.
I was like, this dude's grumpy as fuck.
Yeah.
They laugh and he's like, awful girls.
Yeah,
He did.
Stupid.
dude, he said they're common, and he's like, where are all the nice girls?
Nice girls don't laugh.
Apparently
Yeah.
not, which, again, sets up a lot of very odd societal expectations.
I guess.
Because since he heard women laughing, he said Japan is finished,
Yeah.
which I think is a little extreme.
Women are
Yeah.
happy in the streets.
Yeah.
This whole place has gone to
They're
shit.
just hanging out, dude.
Yeah, calm down. But Aoyama says that he might get married again, but he doesn't know to who. Yeah, I'm in the same boat, dude. And he tells him about the conversation he had with his son the night before. I say again, I've never been married.
You're going to get remarried?
Yeah, for the first time. But he says that he wishes a gorgeous woman was just hiding somewhere. Yoshikawa tries to get down to the details of what Aoyama's looking for, and Aoyama says that he's hoping his future bride is a mature woman who has some kind of career that she's somewhat successful in, but he also wants her to have a talent or skill like playing the piano. Yoshikawa remarks that Ryoku was like that, and Aoyama just breezes right past that.
That's sad.
It's very sad, because his answer is he just wants his wife again.
Yeah.
But Aoyama says that people who have a skill are confident, and he wouldn't have to rely on others to be happy. But he also says that he wants to get to know her because he can't afford to make a mistake at this age. He wants to meet a ton of women so he can find one who would be perfect for him. And Yoshikawa's like, oh, I got the plan for that, Chief. An audition.
Sketchy as fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. He's like, but if I could just meet hundreds of
Like,
women,
it's like, oh, I got the perfect idea. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds all like, this is literally like you put Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson in this, and this is a fucking rom-com.
It is a rom-com,
Yeah.
yes. And it's funny because I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, so say he meets a woman and then it goes good and then she finds out about the audition.
No,
and
that's
then,
the whole plot.
Yeah.
And then he has to be like, well, that's what it was before, but I
Yeah,
love
but now
you.
It's, yeah,
Yeah.
And it's
then,
Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn is Yoshikawa.
and then he runs to stop her plane at the airport, and then fucking,
Grand romantic
and
gesture.
they get married.
And then it ends. Audition's a happy film.
Until next time, guys.
But in the next scene, we're at Yoshikawa's office and he's seated behind his desk and he passes Aoyama a script calling it a romantic story. He reminds Aoyama of an old documentary that he made about a ballet dancer, her son, and her patron. He tells him that he's had the story rewritten and asks what he thinks of it. Aoyama says it's fine and asks if he plans to set up the audition. As they walk to another office, Yoshikawa reveals his full plan. He plans to set up an audition for the heroine of this film, who incidentally lines up with all the qualifications Aoyama discussed at the bar.
What?
What a coincidence.
No fucking way.
He says the woman who actually wins the role obviously won't be interested in Aoyama, which
Thanks.
I thought was,
Yeah.
and you're my friend.
He's not gonna want your ass.
Oh,
but-
no. But he says that Aoyama is sure to find someone at the audition who will interest him. He says it isn't technically fraud, which once you start saying that shit, it's fraud.
When you have to use the word technically.
Yeah.
He says it's not because they're planning to actually make this picture if they can get it financed, but it's still definitely shady as fuck.
It's so bad, dude. Like, that's gross as fuck.
It really is. And they had it more detailed in the novel where Aoyama produced that documentary, and so they have that line to where he can say, oh, I'm a producer of this film because it's based on my work.
That's why I'm here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, who's your friend?
Who's your fucking weird friend just sitting there taking notes and shit?
And sweating.
Not saying anything.
Where are your pants?
Yeah. But Yoshikawa says that maybe 10 out of 1,000 applicants will fit the bill, and they'd be just right for Aoyama. He also says that he's going to advertise for this on a radio program called Tomorrow's Heroine. And before departing to order them coffee, he reminds Aoyama that he is an excellent auditioner. He's like, I've got this. But Aoyama just reclines in his seat looking over the script. And I'm like, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, no, this is airtight.
Oh, yeah. In the next scene, Aoyama is stuck in traffic and it's pouring down rain outside. After a quick business call, he switches on the radio. He tunes past what sounds like hair metal. And we hear somber piano play as the Tomorrow's Heroine ad comes on. A voice beckons. Tomorrow's Heroine, I wonder where you are. Incredible things can happen if you have a bit more courage. Stars were not stars right from the beginning. Audrey Hepburn, Julia Roberts, even these stars used to be ordinary girls. Tomorrow's heroine is living just like you are today. Tomorrow's heroine, it could be you. I was like, Julia Roberts?
That was really hot.
I mean, she's no Jessica Garner,
like, but who is? Okay?
Nobody is.
That made me laugh too, because I was like, what? I mean, I guess it's 1999.
Yeah, but I feel like you don't jump from Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
I felt like that was very strange.
Maybe Marilyn Monroe? I don't know, dude.
No, Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts. But I thought it was funny in the novel, at this point when it happens, he's listening to the Beatles with his son.
Yeah.
And they saw the cost and they're like, nope. Random hair metal it is. But the scene ends in an apartment where a little girl sits huddled on the floor, listening intently to the broadcast as the rain hammers down just outside her window.
Who dat?
We'll find out. I'll just say it's interesting. But in the next scene, we see Aoyama arrive at home with groceries to chat with Reneé, played by Toshi Negishi. I believe she's his housekeeper.
Yeah.
Right.
She tells him about shopping plans that she has with her daughter this weekend and reminds him to put his clothes in the basket before she comes back. She then thanks him and is on her way. I felt like they're kind of setting up here something where every woman in Aoyama's life
fills a role.
Yeah. It's not anything to where he even really cares about anything about them.
No, they're like archetypes almost.
Yeah.
And that's definitely visited more later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for sure. He doesn't give a fuck about Reneé. She's just the lady that washes his underwear and does his dishes. You know what I mean? Like makes his food.
He said, so you're going to have a daughter or something?
Yes.
I don't know. But in his office, Aoyama leafs through his binder full of women applicants, seemingly reading further into the women he finds attractive.
There are so many applications.
It's unbelievable.
I thought that too. I was like, damn, that's a big old stack.
He then looks up at a photo of Ryoko that sits on his desk, turning it away from him in apparent guilt or shame.
Well, she was like, really? This is what you're fucking doing?
I think she even had her arms crossed.
An audition? Like Aoyama,
I mean,
really?
Well, yeah, there's no way I could look at a picture of you and then be doing this stupid shit.
No.
Like, I'd be like, I know you'd be super mad.
No, my ghost is judging you through the fucking picture.
He throws it out the window. But this is what I mean with her kind of hanging over the proceedings. He's still very clearly,
for sure,
going through it. And that's very interesting. You just flash forward to 7 years later. We don't know anything about how he handled
his
grief or anything. Yeah. But just then, his phone rings and it's Yoshikawa. On the phone, Aoyama compares the task of choosing the women to picking out his first car.
Gross.
Very.
Yeah.
Even Yoshikawa is like, how could you compare the two?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gross as hell. It's like, I don't like it when women laugh, but you sicken me, sir. But But he tells Aoyama to pick 30 women for the audition next week and to choose wisely and to read the essays carefully. Don't just look at the photos. Aoyama says he will, and then he gets off the phone. Just then, Shigehiko just busts in the door without knocking, asking about dinner. I'm like, he could have been doing anything, man.
Well, he leans over the applications like he's hiding porn or something.
Yeah.
He's like, what? What's up?
Aoyama says that he'll eat his dinner later, but his son is like, look.
How hungry are you, though?
Yeah.
Listen, Pops, not only are you looking tired, you look a little chubby. No.
Yeah.
But he's like, I got a girl in the other room, man.
Yeah.
And Aoyama's like, well, all right, I guess you can have my dinner. And Shigehiko's like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And so he just bails, closing the door behind him, super happy. As Aoyama returns to the folders of women, he accidentally spills his tea on one of the applications. He picks it up to dry it off, but then he's transfixed by it.
It's fate.
Yeah, man.
This is what I'm talking about. This is a fucking rom-com moment.
Exactly.
For,
Yeah.
like, for real.
It plays into a lot of those tropes. I feel like a lot of people could be watching it and they're like, did I put on the wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, especially
This is a horror movie?
with what you've been told about this
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I hope he makes it.
She looks lovely.
Yeah. But romantic piano begins to play as he observes the file and smiles. It's the application of Asami Yamazaki, played by Eihi Shiina. He reads through her essay. 12 years of ballet training sticks out to him, but he reads a passage where Asami is unsure of her ability to become an actress, admitting that simply the story just fascinated her. She had previously trained to be a ballerina, but injured her hip when she was 18 years old. The most important thing in her life was ripped away from her, which she compares to accepting death. Accompanied by shots of Ryoko sitting up in her hospital bed, Aoyama continues reading. Asami says to live means to approach death gradually, something she knows from experience, which inspired her to apply. Aoyama appears very impressed.
I mean, that's exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too perfect.
She's perfect on paper. On paper.
Interesting.
Interesting.
The funny thing is that Ao Shiina, her real audition with Takashi Miike kind of mirrors Asami's mentality here. I read that she was a model who got a call from Miike, and she's like, I'm never going to get the part in this film, but I just really like to talk to Takashi Miike.
Yeah.
And so they chatted, and then the conversation just continued because it was so good. And then they, parted company. He calls her back and he's like, hey, would you like to meet again to talk, basically the same thing.
Right.
And when she came back, he offered her the part.
Oh, nice.
She didn't even really know she was auditioning.
Yeah.
Well, she does
Yes.
amazingly in this.
It's
so,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But in the living room, we see Shigehiko studying dinosaurs with his friend Misuzu Takagi, played by Misato Nakamura. I guess the education system is different, because I would have loved a very thorough dino-centric lesson.
No shit, dude.
And they look like they're having a blast.
Oh, no, yeah.
Well, I don't even think they're studying.
Is this just for fun?
Because she's like, I like science too, and he wanted to show me his dinosaur stuff.
He's like, oh, this is just my shit. But Aoyama comes out of his room and he greets Misuzu. Shigehiko is like, I saw her on the way to school and she looked pretty, so I talked to her. I'm like, well, that's really honest. And she's right there.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah, that's right. But Misuzu adds that she, like you said, has a keen interest in biology, so she wanted to check out Shigehiko's books. When she realizes that she ate Aoyama's dinner, she offers to cook him something, but he just throws on his coat to head out. He calls for the dog to take him for a walk, and he gives the okay sign to his son before heading out. I guess because he's like, she's good.
Yeah.
She looks good.
I thought that scene was cute.
Yeah.
It was. To me, it seemed odd for Aoyama not to care at all about her interests. Like, she says, I'm interested too, and he's like, goodbye. Like, I thought that was really weird. But, and then he gives the okay sign because he's like, she's cute. That's all I care about.
Right. And again, there's more to say about that later for sure. But yeah, I mean, like we said before, Aoyama, I think, has this very structured way that he sees women. And this woman is for helping me at work. This woman is for cleaning my house. This woman, she's Shigehiko's. Okay, whatever. Bye.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it just is what it is.
I also thought her offering to cook was intentional on behalf of the filmmakers to kind of make it almost like Aoyama's vision of the world where every woman has a purpose.
Right.
And honestly, she shouldn't offer to do anything. Like, he gave her the dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shigehiko should be fucking making
Yeah.
him some dinner.
Exactly. He's like, I made you some. It's in the fridge. Just heat it up when you get back. But instead, so I just thought,
Yeah.
it's kind of fitting with the theme that's kind of running through this thing.
Right.
And I don't know if, forgive me for using the term woke, but I don't know if I'm looking at this film from a completely different, like, 2021 lens.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this dude's a nice guy and some crazy shit happens.
Dude.
I don't think Aoyama is
Not at
as
all.
nice as I thought he was, at least.
See, and that's the other thing, because from like however old we were when we watched it the first time,
Young.
yeah, I was like, this man has been through a lot. And I want him to find love. But this time I'm like, man, this
Hold
audition,
on, though. Yeah,
you're a piece of
Yeah.
shit.
I mean, when you're younger, you're like, that's really smart.
Yeah.
2 birds, 1
Yeah.
stone, making a movie, getting a wife,
Yeah.
bada bing, bada boom. Now it's like, ew,
Ew.
Yeah.
gross.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a matter of, I don't know. It could
Woke.
be, yeah. It could be a woke thing. It could be a matter of society kind of shifting to where we see why this is bullshit.
Right.
Because it is. It's
yeah.
very gross.
And so I'm like, well, he's not really the hero of the story.
No.
And we'll go on because I did want to ask. I'll ask it now and then we'll cover it later.
Okay.
I have seen various reviews of this film. Some people saying it's one of the greatest feminist horror films of all time. Others saying it's the most misogynistic piece of shit ever made.
Uh-huh.
And so I would love once
What
we
side
get
of the
to
fence we land on?
Exactly.
That okay.
All right. Before we move on,
Yes.
I love the son's fro. His hair was great. I was like, all right, I see you.
It's got style, man. In his schoolboy uniform or whatever. But in the next scene, we see a chair sat in the middle of a very large room. The automatic shades are coming down behind it, closing the windows. Aoyama and Yoshikawa sit at a desk with nameplates parked in front of them, and Yoshikawa asks him if he's ready to begin the audition, and although Aoyama goes full Fiona Apple, saying that he feels like a criminal, he says he's good to go.
Because this is shady as
Yes.
fuck. You know that this is bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's technically not fraud. I can't get past that.
Technically.
It technically wasn't murder. It's like it was murder. But it officially begins. What follows is a montage of women entering the room, sitting down in the chair, and on tape being interviewed by Yoshikawa. He asks them all types of questions. From what does your father do for a living and who's your favorite actress, to would you work in the sex industry?
On previous watchings, I thought this whole little montage was funny and that these are like
Yes.
random questions or
Yeah.
whatever. These aren't random questions.
No.
This is, what box do you fit into?
Exactly.
Are you promiscuous? Are you gonna have sex with this dude?
Right.
Are you, I mean, it's just,
No,
it's
it's
gross.
gross.
They're very fucking pointed questions when you really stop to think about it.
No, yeah. I think earlier before the show I had mentioned it. I was like, what the fuck are these questions? I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you asking this?
And
What
when
the-
I was younger, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's
Yeah,
so
you-
random that it's funny.
Right.
They weren't random.
No.
Those were not random questions.
You want to know the worst part about it is when I was younger, I genuinely did believe the 2 birds with 1 stone thing.
Yeah.
I thought they were really trying to cast
Yes.
a movie.
Uh-huh.
And watching it this time, I'm like, there's no fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like every single question.
There might be one day.
It is. And it's funny because through that, I guess, more mature lens that I have now,
Yeah.
this is just very disgusting.
It's gross, dude.
Yeah, it's not like this is speed dating or something.
No,
It's
they
like,
don't even know that that's what they're there for.
That's the problem.
They didn't consent to any of this.
If
They
this-
think they're going to be in a fucking
Yeah.
movie.
No, yeah.
If this was a speed dating thing, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I don't,
Yeah.
Right.
No,
you
it's-
signed up for this, but it's not.
It boggles my mind. It just fucking trips me out that I lived an existence where I was like, oh man, this is funny.
Yeah.
Like,
And you know what really,
I hope he finds his wife.
Yeah.
what really plays it up is the fucking like 60s elevator music that plays throughout.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like Miike is trying to subvert that kind of idea to where it's like, yeah, it's being presented as totally okay and funny,
Right.
but it's wrong.
But
Yeah.
it is, and it very much so.
Clearly. But some of the girls display their talents. One girl appearing to be a cheerleader, for example. One girl's a tap dancer. And Aoyama, the whole time, he could not look more over it.
Yeah, not at all. You picked them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
right? He picked the 30 women.
All 30,
so, like,
yeah.
at least be fucking respectful.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm bored.
He's like on his phone.
Fucking dick, dude.
It's like, get off Candy Crush, man. You picked these women. But some of the girls do strike his fancy, though, and he feverishly takes notes on a couple of them. The women he isn't interested in, though, their segment in the montage ends with a very cold next from
Yeah.
Yoshikawa. The auditions continue, though, with Aoyama skipping ahead on his ledger to find that the 28th audition of the day will be Asami Yamazaki. The auditions continue, all of them a bit demoralizing, as we said, with Yoshikawa asking the women to get up and walk around for them or laugh. He's like, he kicks them out as soon as they laugh.
Yeah.
Japan is dead or whatever.
Yeah.
Japan's finished. But one woman walks in and immediately takes off her coat to reveal a bikini. After a while, the two men call for a 10-minute break. After everyone else vacates the room, Yoshikawa asks Aoyama why he isn't asking any questions.
Very quickly, when they call for the 10-minute break, they acknowledge that they're 30 minutes behind.
Yeah.
Which I was like, is that us?
Yeah.
That's a little behind-the-scenes humor about Pod Mortem, folks. But he says he isn't losing interest or anything. He's just nervous, and then he excuses himself to the restroom. On his way to the restroom, though, he spots who he assumes is Asami sitting at a table reading a book. He nods to himself and then heads back to the auditions.
Well, yeah, because even in the book, he's like, I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
can you fucking not look like you're sleeping on the table?
Yeah.
Yoshikawa was like, my morality is in question because of you. You better get in the mood, but... As the auditions continue, the women explain their career aspirations. One woman is a fashion designer, one wants to be an actress, and another woman says her former agent worked in pornography as the camera scans her legs. So I'm like,
Class.
even the cameraman is a piece of shit.
Uh-huh.
But the absolute one woman just immediately strips for them, taking off her bra as Aoyama looks down embarrassed at first, but then totally
Yeah.
he totally looks up and cops a look at her boobs. Like, it happens.
I was about to say at first.
Yeah. He's like, well,
Then he's like, all right,
while I'm here,
I can't.
it's bad.
I
It's
can't.
really, really bad. But one woman even makes a second appearance telling them that she has more to say.
She's my favorite character.
She sits back down and they're like, didn't you come in before?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, but I got more to say.
I wasn't done.
No,
so.
that made me laugh so hard. But they finally arrive at the 28th audition. Aoyama finally appears alert, yet very, very nervous.
Yeah, he's clearly made up his mind.
Yeah.
Like, he has not looked like this in literally any of the other auditions.
Yeah. No, and the other thing that made me laugh is I noticed that his shirt is unbuttoned now.
Yeah.
I was like, was it always like that? He fucking slicks his eyebrows with his fingers. Like, I'm like, what's going on? But Asami walks in, bowing to the men twice before introducing herself and having a seat. She answers Yoshikawa's questions very politely. She says despite many offers, she's never appeared on television or in film. She also doesn't belong to an agency, but says that the director of Ace Records looks after her, but she hasn't heard from him in a while. Interesting. She says his name is Mr. Shibata, and Yoshikawa writes that down. When asked how she pays her bills since she's been unemployed after her last job, she says that she works at a friend's bar 3 times a week. She says that she doesn't need to live extravagantly. She's happy if she can buy some CDs from time to time. Now, kids, a CD, it's what you could,
It's like iTunes, but
Yeah.
like on a DVD.
It
what
looks
a
like
DVD
a tortilla.
is.
But Aoyama finally breaks his silence and he asks her about her ballet career. You know, the only dream that was ripped away from her forever.
Yeah, let's
So-
just casually
Yeah.
talk about
No
it.
big deal.
Like, now you want to speak up?
Right.
How's your hip, man? But he says it must have been difficult for her to give it up after her injury, and she responds with a somewhat wounded yes.
What do you want?
like, yeah.
Yeah.
But he brings up what she said in her essay, comparing it to accepting death, telling her he was impressed and that everyone is forced to give up something precious to them eventually, no matter what. You're projecting, but he says he's impressed that a woman her age could understand that concept, and he says it's clear that she takes life very seriously and that she always has. Yoshikawa looks at him like, reel it in.
You got it bad.
He does, dude. He read an essay.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord. But I want to also kind of fuck you, Aoyama, for saying that. I don't think that the only way that someone can become wise or accumulate life experience is by getting older. Like,
No,
Yeah.
but
I think everyone has a perspective on morality,
well, yeah,
but also mortality. But I mean, because he says that, and it's like, that's when I also realized, I'm like, wow, he is way older than her.
Yeah.
yeah. John Paul was like, "Isn't she in her 20s?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, she is."
Very clearly.
Yeah,
And he's not.
he's not in his 20s.
Yeah, I told her, I said, are we going to talk about that issue? Because
Yeah.
he's obviously older than she is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot older.
And again, that sets up another bit of like the power dynamic.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, look at how they're meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm on this side of the desk that
Yeah.
to you, I'm choosing what's going to happen to you. I'm choosing what's going to happen to all those women you were sitting with out there. I'm the one in charge. I'm the one calling the shots. You're over there with the camera pointed at you, and I get to ask the questions. Already, this is skewed.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, yeah, let's throw the age on top of it.
It's just a Sunday of wrong.
I feel like Ken is going to call me scary in this one again.
Well, and we haven't even gotten to the real shit. But Aoyama nervously sips his tea, and Asami simply thanks him. Yoshikawa's like, "Is that all you got, bro?"
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah. Well, Aoyama, he doesn't even answer. He just says nothing.
Yeah.
And he thanks Asami for her time and says that they'll be in touch. She gets up, bids them farewell with a bow, and walks out the door. Before she leaves, though, she turns around again to bow at Aoyama once more, who is obviously, clearly 100% smitten by her already.
Yeah.
I feel like as she was leaving, I'm like, I feel like she barely talked.
Oh, yeah. He,
Like,
and again, that's...
You monologued.
Yeah. I think that's the thing as well, because it wasn't really an audition. It was more Aoyama telling her what he thought of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
And checking out the goods.
oh yeah, he was.
I mean,
So, I mean, it's, more to that skewed idea of, I guess, maybe gender dynamics, maybe...
could be.
I mean,
I feel like there's so much, and we're all three of us probably too dumb to properly
absolutely.
unpack it. But I mean, yeah.
I think
yeah.
that's my thing, is that a lot of people, like I said at the top, they'll talk to you about the ending of the movie, which is very striking.
Right.
But there's a lot of depth here.
Yeah, that I literally did not. I was not aware of it until watching it this time, and then you're kind of like, wait.
Holy shit.
I didn't even blink. He's got to be twice her age.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've got no problem with an age gap. We have a little bit of an age gap.
Yeah, but not that big.
Your age gap is what, 5 years?
5 years.
So
I
calm
mean,
down.
I think 5, 10, depending on your age, that's not a big deal. But the way that this is, the entire setup,
Yes.
it only adds to my list of cons. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And your opinion of Aoyama,
Right.
which is not a good
because
one.
No.
He picked the women, right?
Yeah.
All of these women were fucking young.
Yeah.
Right.
All of them very similar in shape.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Beautiful women. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
You know what you're doing, dude. You know what you're doing.
He had a plan.
He had
Yeah.
a fucking plan.
But the woman bringing in the applicants asks if she should send in another girl, but Yoshikawa says that they're going to take a 15-minute break.
We're only an hour behind. Let's
So what's another 15 minutes? But after she leaves, he also tells the cameraman to take a powder. With the two men alone in the room once again, Yoshikawa lights up a smoke, telling Aoyama that Asami made him nervous after he's asked what he thought of her. He can tell that Aoyama has already decided that she's the one.
And he has.
Yeah.
He did a real shitty job hiding it. But Aoyama explains that her essay really spoke to him, and after meeting her, he's even more into her. Yoshikawa brings up that weird line he dropped, "I could tell that you've always taken life very seriously." He's like, to be honest, that had me shook. He's like, you don't talk like that in an
He's like,
audition.
what the fuck, bro?
Yeah, I told them you were cool. But Aoyama gets up and sits in the chair that all the girls sat in when they were auditioning. Yoshikawa admits that Asami looks nicer in person than in her photo, but he says that he feels anxious about it, and he doesn't know why. He says something is wrong with Asami, and Aoyama just smiles.
It's called Bad Vibes,
Yeah.
Yoshikawa,
Yeah,
okay?
yes.
And I wanted to point out the symbolism of Aoyama leaving his seat and going and sitting in the audition chair because maybe some changes are happening.
A little, yeah. Little shift in dynamics there. And I do want to talk about that later.
Okay. Shut the fuck up.
No. But back at the Aoyama household, Shigehiko shovels food into his mouth as his father tells him that Misuzu seemed like a nice girl. This is what I'm talking about with the faithful adaptation, because in the novel they said Shigehiko eats like a lion that's being fed.
Yeah.
And this dude is fucking chomping.
He's eating in every scene. He's
Yeah.
either eating or talking about food in every scene.
Either food, dinosaurs he'd like to turn into food. But Shigehiko agrees that Misuzu is nice, but he admits that he's just flat out terrified of women. After he gets up to leave, he thanks his dad for dinner, but tells him that if he does plan to get married again, find someone who cooks rice better than Reneé.
Because that's
like,
what Rie's good
Yeah.
for, is
That's
cooking
it.
the rice.
And again, that's the other thing. This fucking movie is brilliant because it shows him passing on this shit to his son.
It's generational shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the girl he brought home. She's pretty.
And he said straight up, I only talked to her because she was pretty. That was it.
That's what she brings to the table.
Just so happens she's
And-
interested in dinosaurs.
Yeah. Rie brings the rice, and the rice ain't great.
No.
So let's upgrade.
And also, fuck you, because you should be thankful Ray is making you anything.
Also,
Yeah,
you were
no
slurping
shit.
that shit down.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
He's like, that thing I
bad.
just
Yeah.
devoured? Shit. But Aoyama asks his son why he's in such a hurry, and as it turns out, a new dinosaur has been dug up in Argentina, and we know Shigehiko is about that life, so he's rushing off to get all the info he can. Alone, Aoyama heads back to his office with a drink to peruse Asami's file once again. He then decides to take action. He picks up the phone and gives her a call. He introduces himself again as the producer from the audition and asks her if she has any time to spare. As he sets up the date, we get a shot of Ryoko's photo. When he gets off the phone, he is fucking over the moon.
Yeah.
He looks like he's 20 now because he's
Yeah.
like, he's fucking cabbage patching and shit. But the phone rings shortly after, and it's Yoshikawa. He says he's called Ace Records to check Asami's story, and he says it might not be a big deal, but something is amiss.
Like, yeah, okay, Captain,
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
down.
He's like,
This dude's on fucking
yeah.
cloud nine.
He has a
Yeah.
fucking radar. He's like, I think he's happy right now. Let me.
Trying to warn him.
He is.
Yeah, dude, he is.
The issue is that the Mr. Shibata that she spoke of during the audition went missing 18 months ago. Dude just vanished.
Yeah.
This is a problem. Interestingly, though, we don't get a reaction from Aoyama at all. The scene just
Aoyama?
ends.
Yeah.
Aoyama's literally like, okay, and
Yeah. I will see you tomorrow, dude. But in the next scene, we're at a nice restaurant for Aoyama and Asami's meeting / date, if you ask Aoyama. Interestingly, it's shot from the point of view of Asami, which I thought was interesting because it's like Aoyama's been the focus of the whole situation and it's an entirely selfish endeavor. So why wouldn't we only see him
right.
and what he thinks of
Because that's
this?
all that matters.
Exactly.
I wanted to point out the fact that she is always wearing white.
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna
you
say
know-
the same clothes, but
Okay.
they are. They're
I'm
just
thinking
plain.
purity,
Yeah.
virginal,
Exactly.
you know.
It's... We'll talk later.
All right.
But I have an idea about that as well. But Aoyama tells her that he isn't going to ask her any questions, and she's like, so I just have to chat and enjoy some food? She's like, this is the best offer I've ever had.
Bet.
Yeah. But then he immediately breaks the no questions thing, and he's like, so about Mr. Shibata. She apologizes and says that she made him think that Mr. Shibata was her agent, but she's actually never met him. She thought it would help her chances if she pretended to know someone in the industry, and that's why she came up with that story. This sets Aoyama's mind at ease, and he says that it all makes sense now.
He's like, well, that explains everything.
Yeah.
Case closed.
I don't, sure, man. But their food arrives, and they share a very expensive-looking meal together. Over shots of them walking together through the streets of Tokyo, we hear audio of Asami asking Aoyama if they could do this again sometime, only if he has the time to do so. Romantic music plays as he says, of course, and she's overjoyed. She promises not to bother him as we see her depart his company with a smile and a bow. He tells her to call him anytime, and she thanks him for everything. So again, at this point, aside from the Mr. Shibata bit, which is a little tease.
Well, we've explained it all.
Well, I just want to point out it's a romance film.
It is, yeah.
Like flat out.
And at this point, this dude is over the moon
Yeah.
when he's
Oh,
standing
yeah.
on the street. He's like floating.
Yeah.
It's like the scene in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
But later that day, at some rooftop driving range, Aoyama tells Yoshikawa to forget about the movie and the search because he's decided on Asami. Game over. It's fucking done. Yoshikawa is hesitant, and he says that he needs to have time to get to know her better. He's like, don't fucking rush this. But Aoyama's like, dude, what is your issue with her? This is when Yoshikawa explains that he doesn't think life can be that easy. Asami appears to be everything Aoyama wants, but he feels that it's very suspicious that she fell for their little audition scheme. It wasn't fraud.
So you set up this audition scheme.
Right.
And anybody who you find from it, which was the whole point of the scheme, how did she fall for it?
I don't know, dude.
I don't.
Are
What do you
you-
want?
Are you feeling guilty, man? Like,
Confused.
it was very odd.
I took it as like he said, like all the other girls gave different answers. They all said things maybe he liked, maybe he didn't. But she said everything.
And that's very
So
suspicious.
it's like, wait, what? Nobody's that perfect. Nobody.
Yeah.
What the fuck is happening? You know?
It literally is everything that he wants.
Yeah.
And then literally the one person we can fact check anything about you.
You can't.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But Yoshikawa says that he tried to run a background check on her, but couldn't come up with anything. She's basically a phantom. Their conversation continues over footage of Asami's audition, with Aoyama countering that he's not an idiot and he trusts his judgment more than anyone else's. Whatever happens, he can handle it. But he tells Yoshikawa that he was right. He did find the perfect woman at the audition, and so he thanks him before heading to the exit. Yoshikawa stops him, though, and asks one request. Don't call Asami for a bit. Even if he's totally off base with his suspicions, it's still not best to rush into things. Aoyama agrees and leaves.
Yoshikawa's a piece of shit too.
Yes.
But he's clearly just trying to look out for his friend.
Right.
And if somebody, I mean, they seem to have a good friendship.
Right.
If Yoshikawa's doing this sketchy shit for him, wouldn't, if your friend was coming to you like that, wouldn't you be like,
Hold on.
well,
Yeah.
why? Okay, tell me why you feel that way. At
Right,
least.
right.
And then if he says something, not being like, no, I can handle myself. You know?
And it's not like his suspicions are unreasonable.
No.
No.
And in the book, he's like, yeah, I bet he's jealous. If I was watching me with this beautiful young girl,
Right.
I'd be jealous too.
Okay.
Motherfucker, but
Yeah.
No,
that's your
yeah.
friend. I would never, if somebody's really my friend, I wouldn't be like, that bitch is just jealous. Like, why?
That's
You're
not-
making any excuse to
Yeah.
continue doing what you're doing. And in the book, he asked him not to call for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And what did he say? If she calls you, then she's trying to get something out of you. But if she's really wants you for you, then she'll wait.
Right.
You know, like a fucking dog waiting for a treat. Right?
Again, more with this bullshit. You
Yeah.
know. And to me, I'm also getting like vibes of Aoyama acting almost like, you know, you don't know what love is, Dad. Like, it's so weird.
You don't remember what it's like to be my age.
It's just very strange. But back at his office, Aoyama looks over Asami's application again, struggling not to pick up the phone immediately. I do want to point out that in the novel, they say that during those 2 weeks, he like loses weight and he's fucking like,
He's all
he
fucked
is,
up.
yeah.
His son and Reneé are both like, are you okay, dude?
Like, I think your dad's gonna die, dude.
He's all fucked up about it.
But in a barren apartment, similarly framed to the shot of that little girl listening to the radio broadcast, Asami sits on the floor. She stares at the telephone, which sits across from her on the floor next to a large Tide sack.
I'm sure it's nothing, right?
I think it's her laundry, right?
Yeah, like who doesn't have a big fucking bulging sack in the middle of their living room, right, guys?
Are you holier than thou, motherfuckers without the
Oh,
sack?
you uppity and
Ooh.
shit. Okay.
But the scene intercuts with shots of Aoyama tossing and turning in his bed at night in his cold blue room. he dreams of Ryoko peeking at him from behind a tree before disappearing completely behind it.
She's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Me crossing my arms in the photo wasn't enough, motherfucker. But the next morning, Aoyama sits in the living room with incense burning.
All fucking dramatic.
He is. He's playing the Smiths. But Reneé asks if he's okay, considering he's never really taken a day off of work like this before. And she basically goes through his entire biography, talking about how hard he's worked. And then she says that she wishes her husband worked that hard so she didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you have a husband?
Yeah.
You exist when you leave the house?
Where's my food? I thought you said you were making food.
No, she really does just gas him up.
Yeah.
You've raised him on your own. Da, 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 da.
But she asks him about his lady friend, and Aoyama just smiles. Reneé smiles oddly before taking a sip of tea, and I was like, this is just like the shit with the secretary earlier. Is everyone meant to be in love with this dude?
Probably in his universe.
Yeah.
So are we watching it through his eyes? Aoyama, you're the best, everybody. But Reneé tends to the dishes, and Aoyama picks up his cell phone before thinking better of it and setting it back down. At his office, we see Aoyama's secretary about to head out for the day, but she heads into his office to say goodbye to him. So I'm like, either this is a new day or he decided to go to work after all.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing with this film is, like I said, in the novel, he's like, don't call her for 2 weeks already or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, there's no defined time. So time is very fast and loose with... You're right. Is it the next day? Is he like, oh, this bitch is on my case. Let me go to the office. You don't know.
Since I work so hard.
You don't know.
I feel like it makes a lot more sense to me and is much more effective if this is a new day.
Right.
Especially for what we see next.
Right.
But he says goodbye to his secretary very absent-mindedly, staring at his computer screen. She just stands there and he asks her if something is wrong. She says no and then leaves. It is very awkward.
It is. At this point, I'm like, just tell him, sis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we'll talk later.
Mm-hmm. But he continues working and then stops again to stare at his office phone.
It made me think of... Do you remember that episode of The Simpsons when Lisa's trying not to call the Corey hotline?
Montessori.
Gotta make it till midnight. Gotta make it till midnight.
Kid. But we get a shot of Asami in her apartment, still in the same position that she was in when we last saw her. So again, it's much more effective if this is days ago.
Yeah, I'm like, bitch, have you moved? Like her spine, dude.
Get a sip of water. There's a shot of her spine.
Yeah.
And it looks
like,
awful.
Help me.
But the phone is still sat across from her on the floor next to that large sack.
What's in the bag?
Aoyama picks up the phone to call, but then he sets it down again, leaving his office. He stops in the hallway, clearly deciding that he just can't take it anymore, and the phone rings in Asami's apartment. Through her long black hair, a smile stretches across her face.
That angle and the smile, it is literally chilling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
it looks good.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was mildly concerned for
Mildly?
Yeah, I guess extremely would be the right. But she raises her head, and in the background, we see the sack violently roll across the floor.
And I'm sorry, what?
See, it was enough with Yoshikawa talking about Mr. Shibata going missing.
Right.
This shit, that's on another level.
Yeah, an undeniable level.
Yeah.
In the novel, like I said, there's a couple moments of, oh, that's weird, but I'm sure it's fine though, right? The first time that they meet up and go to eat together, there's a woman pushing a man in a wheelchair, and he seems...
This is a lot.
He seems to look at Asami,
right,
and like is like, we got to get the fuck out of here.
To his mom.
To his mom who's pushing the wheelchair.
Right.
And Aoyama's like, do you know that guy? And Asami's like, and then it's just
That's
fine.
It. He's like, he literally says he probably has her mistaken for someone else. and they just continue their meal.
Which was a lot.
Yes.
Like, but this is arguably more.
Yeah.
100%. And it's more mysterious because you're like you said, what's in the bag?
Yeah.
Because my living room bag doesn't move.
No. It's laundry, as we've stated.
Yeah. I was going to say it's filled with clothes.
And the bag makes no appearance in the novel.
No. That's
purely
just Takashi Miike.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no.
what if we put a bag like everyone has in their living room?
but we
This
make
one's weird. But Asami picks up the phone and in her sweetest voice says that she's so glad to hear from Aoyama and thought he'd never call again.
That makes it so much scarier that she answers it chill as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Like she has not been breaking her spine next to the phone this entire time.
And I mean, there's been hints of like some dark shit going on.
Yeah.
But I feel like from this point on, it's an entirely different movie.
Yeah.
Because you're watching it differently now. Because now it's not, Asami is just this woman that came to the audition, blah, blah, blah. It's like she has a whole fucking life that's got some shit in it that we don't know. And now...
The bag.
Yeah, the bag. The bag has changed everything.
She has baggage.
She has baggage.
She has baggage.
Yeah, I will say I've been known to tell women to get their bag, but this is not what I...
This is not it. But we then see Asami walking down the street to her next date with Aoyama, wearing a very red, very furry coat.
I was going to say, okay, coat.
Yeah.
She's fucking rocking that thing, but
White underneath.
Yeah.
what does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a shift.
It's a shift. Yeah, you can't tell me that they had this woman in white the entire film and you're going to put a fluffy ass red coat on her and that doesn't mean anything.
She was cold.
Okay. That's what it means.
But at the date itself in a restaurant, she tells him that she was waiting for him to call, and he apologizes. She says she can't stop smiling because she thought she'd never see him again. He then asks her about her family since he didn't get to in the audition. She states simply that they're fine, but he follows up asking if they live in Tokyo. She says they've recently moved to a new house in Chiba, but admits that while they don't fight or anything, they're not super close. Aoyama also expresses an interest in going to the bar where she works called the Stone Fish, and Asami's like, well, maybe don't though, because the owner likes to meddle in my private life, and it's like she has answers for everything.
Yeah. So all I got from this was my family doesn't live here, so you will not be meeting them. And also don't be popping up at my job.
Yeah.
It's just me, okay?
No, I mean, yeah, the answer she gave, I was like, why?
Yes.
Why can't I go to your job?
Well, that would make me think, oh, so you have a bunch of other dudes
Yeah.
coming to your job.
Is that what you would think?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the bag. As
That's
a woman,
true.
if this was a dude, oh, the manager's always in my private life, so don't come there. Okay, that's where you take
Yeah.
other chicks. Okay, I get it.
Well, but isn't that weird enough that fucking like, he's like, and where you work though? Like,
He's a fucking creep.
he's very creepy.
Yeah.
You're like, we're not denying that.
We've established this.
Because I feel like, I mean, I understand the whole thing about getting to know people on a date or whatever.
Right.
But this feels very prying.
No, it's now that you are in my orbit and I know you now, you exist for me.
So
This is Aoyama. Like,
Right.
this is just what it is.
he's like, we're checking red flags today.
Yeah.
Red flag check.
Yeah.
Where do you work?
And what's this about a bag? But when he says he's just trying to get to know her better, she promises that she would never lie to him. Oddly, we then get a wide shot of them at their table, and the once very populated restaurant is now completely empty. It's such a simple thing, but it's very unsettling.
So how did you take that? How did y'all take that?
I took that as that's either Aoyama or Asami's perception of what's going on right now.
That's how I took it.
Nobody else exists but us.
Yeah.
I thought they just stayed there really late.
They closed the place
Yeah,
down.
I was like, damn, you are still there?
I took it as more Aoyama because I feel like 99% of this film
It's through his...
Right.
is through his lens. Yeah.
Fair.
But he's like, nothing else matters but us
Right,
now.
right.
Because if you look, their drinks are at the same levels.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, no, this is still the conversation we were just listening to, but
Ah, okay.
from, their
Right,
perspective or whatever.
Interesting.
Oh, and I saw in an interview with the actress that plays Asami that this was a real restaurant, a real operating
all right,
restaurant
all
that
right.
they filmed in.
That's cool.
And that, her apartment was a real apartment, that all of these are like
Oh,
real
all
locations.
right.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
She said they didn't have to doctor up her apartment at all. And I was like, really?
Yeah. Well, she was like, I don't know where they found this apartment, but that's just what it looked like.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. All right.
It's rough. But this is when Aoyama brings up the fact that the film that Asami auditioned for, which she already assumes another woman got the part in, is not going to be going forward. He says that a producer did not like a portion of the script, and so it's been postponed indefinitely. She sympathizes with him, and when he tries to do the same, she reminds him that she never thought she'd get the part anyway, and she's just glad to have met him at all.
So I know obviously neither one of y'all would ever do this.
Mm-hmm.
If you did do this though, and you
Okay.
and you met a woman through it, would you tell her what the audition really was, or would you fucking take that shit to your grave?
Personally, I feel like that's an absolute deal breaker to tell,
Yeah.
but it feels very wrong to be dishonest at all.
Well, because that's like what your whole like relationship, that's how it
Right.
started.
Yeah.
So you know that if y'all are together, that's the story you're going to tell forever, and you're always going to be like, oh yeah, but that was a lie though. You know what I mean? And I would also be scared the way that Yoshikawa is acting, that he'd be like, you know what, guess what?
Oh,
This
yeah.
man that you're so in love with.
So we kill Yoshikawa.
So you kill Yoshikawa and take it with you to your grave.
I think,
Well-
honestly, I feel like fucking Aoyama should have just had the dignity to die alone like the rest of us.
But he wants a wife now.
I agree. That's a deal breaker.
Oh,
man.
yeah. You're done.
If there's no way I can tell you that, and then you be like, "Oh, what? That's so silly."
And you picked me.
Yeah. So I guess don't. I mean, I don't know. That's
It feels wrong.
Yeah,
it's fucked
it does,
up.
but-
It's fucked up either way.
I don't know. I guess because you sit there and think, do I stay? If I'm really into you and not like, you're weird and you're gonna whatever, but
you got a bag in your apartment.
Yeah, if you got a bag. Say you don't have a bag and things work out, then you can just kind of stick to that. But if you do have a bag, then I kind of got what's coming to me, right?
Right. But my thing
And
is like,
if this were a romantic drama, she would find out in this act.
Right.
that's the turning point, and then he
Yeah.
has to win her back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the scene transitions to them sitting at a fancier restaurant where Asami explains that being with him is similar to how she felt when she danced ballet.
I thought this transition was like super sudden and interesting.
Yes.
And it kind of, like you said, she always looks like she's wearing the same
Right.
thing, and he does too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, did we meet for drinks and then go out to dinner, or is this another date?
See, that's kind of what bothered me, because I was like, what's happening here?
Right.
It's all like,
Was it
I don't
what-
know if it's meant to be, or me doing the thing where I read too much into stuff.
Right.
But those first stages when you're talking to somebody and it's all like kind of a blur,
Mm-hmm.
and we're together all the time and we're whatever. I don't know if that's what he's trying to, Miike, I mean, is trying to make us feel.
Right.
Like
it's a whirlwind.
like it's a whirlwind.
Like
yeah.
time
That's
is
what I'm
just-
trying to say. That's the word.
Where you're caught in a thing.
Where it's like fucking, you're all spinning and shit.
But you're in love though. But you love it.
But it's a good spin though.
Right.
I think that's because I took it as the passage of time, just with very slight transitions.
Right. But again,
Right.
it's unclear.
Oh, it is.
So,
Yeah.
I agree. But she says that she feels like she's part of something beautiful and all her troubles disappear when she's with him. Aoyama tells her it's difficult to move past tragedy, but one day, life will be wonderful. He says that hope is why everyone carries on with their lives. She thanks him and says that she's never met anyone like him before and that no one has ever accepted her like he has.
what's to accept?
Yeah. I don't even fucking know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like you got a weird bag in your house or anything.
And I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, so literally all he knows is that she has no family really.
Yeah.
She kind of works at a bar a little bit, but don't go.
But don't
Yeah,
go.
You can't go.
Don't go.
And that's really it.
And
She used to dance ballet.
She knows this music producer, but she doesn't.
No.
And she used to dance ballet, but she doesn't. And she's pretty.
Yeah, I'm falling in love with her.
Yeah. Who isn't? But yeah, I think these kids are going to make it.
Oh, I hope so. And you mean that kid and that old kid? But in a taxi that night, Aoyama tells Asami he'll call her for their next date, which she is incredibly eager for. She then says it's her stop, so Aoyama motions for the driver to pull over. She thanks him for everything, and he says he'll call her soon. The car pulls away, with Asami getting smaller in the back window as Aoyama rests his head, smiling.
Can we talk about the fact that this woman got out on the middle of the fucking street
I think that was a
thought it was
bridge.
weird? Like,
She's like, oh, I live under the bridge. I am a troll. Gotta pay the troll toll. But I thought that was strange too, and he didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
he's just like, love.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's just fucking standing there still looking at the car.
He fucking rests
Where
his
are you
head back.
going?
It's like,
Yeah,
Where are you
and you
going?
didn't even go anywhere.
No.
But
It's like, what the fuck?
we then get a quick shot of the phone on the floor of Asami's apartment with the large tied sack sitting motionless next to it in the background. In the next scene, Aoyama visits Shigehiko in his bedroom, and he's naturally surfing the web for the latest dinosaur updates.
As one does.
Of course. Before he can share the good news about Asami, Shigehiko guesses it. He says his father has been acting weird and smiling to himself for no reason from time to time. But then Aoyama tells him that Asami is only 24, which is closer to Shigehiko's age than his.
Yeah.
But he reveals that they're going away for the weekend, and he plans to ask her to marry him.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's super fast.
Very fast. Yoshikawa was like, dude, what are you doing, dude? But he says that he'll introduce them soon. But Shigehiko tells his father that he'll make the proper assessment of Asami then, since Aoyama is obviously too in love to be thinking straight.
Yeah, in love with all that he
Yeah.
knows about her.
Which is nothing.
He's like, you'll meet her at the wedding. Son.
Yeah. Well, she wears white and has hair.
She's
Right.
pretty.
Yeah.
She's pretty.
You'll see. You'll see.
You'll get it.
I told your sister, this man does not age.
Who?
From
dad.
the beginning.
Yeah,
to-
from the very beginning, he looks exactly the same.
Well,
Yeah, it's only 7 years.
yeah. I mean, I like to think I look the same,
We all look the same.
right?
Well, I mean,
It's like that meme,
Don't be scrolling on
right?
our pictures.
Right? But they smile at each other and Aoyama leaves. So it's not one of those things like, oh, I'll be the judge of it. He's like, I'll be the judge.
Yeah.
It's more playful.
Yeah.
But in the next scene, we see a car driving down an open road, followed shortly by a shot of Asami standing outside on the balcony of a hotel room. Aoyama watches her from the doorway, drink in hand. She smiles at him as the waves crash on the nearby beach. So, in the novel, this is a place that he took Ryoko and Shigehiko all the time.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh, wow.
Which
yeah.
is kind of gross. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I don't like it.
No, because I mean, it's in some ways very sad because
Yeah.
it's like he's trying to chase that happiness he felt with Ryoko here with Asami, but at the same time, you don't do that shit.
I
No.
feel like that's a very sweet way to put it.
I'm a romantic.
Clearly, in my mind, it's more, I have these compartments for the women in my life. The compartment that you're in right now, this is where I take that lady.
Uh-huh.
Right.
So now we're here. That lady. Could have said that bitch.
Yeah,
So
well, you chose nicer.
cleaned it up a little
I
bit.
appreciate it. But that night, they discuss dinner plans. He says the hotel has a great chef, but the chef has a sharp tongue. I'm like, wow, Gordon fucking Ramsay's in the... But he also mentions a gallery they can visit before dinner, but Asami just quietly sits on the bed facing away from him. She finally turns to face him and stands up, shutting off the lamp. Aoyama, not getting the message, starts talking about a coffee shop with excellent cheesecake. I'm like, go on.
He's like, they got
Don't watch movies hungry. But Asami begins to unbutton her shirt and still keeps her back to him. It falls to the floor and she unfastens her bra and takes off her underwear. She calmly gets into bed and pulls the sheet over her as Aoyama watches.
I was like, that escalated quickly.
Oh,
I thought we
yeah.
were going to get some cheesecake.
That's what I thought. I was like,
Yeah.
you need a burger.
Yeah.
Oh, no. This is the scene where, one of the scenes, because it's here in my notes, that Hill House type music is
Right.
playing.
All right.
I'm going back and listening.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's really, really good.
And you know what? Maybe it was that was inspiring me to love this score so much.
It's a
'Cause it's
really good
great.
score. Yeah,
It is.
But she beckons him over, and after a moment of hesitation, he walks over to her side of the bed. He begins to take his jacket off, but she tells him not to do that yet. She wants him to look at her body and pulls the sheet up from the bottom, revealing her legs and 2 long scars on her thigh. She tells him she burned herself when she was younger and wants him to know everything about her. It's like, well, maybe start with the sack in the apartment. Like, go off.
Definitely a good place to start.
But she then removes the blanket entirely, and he tells her that she's beautiful. She asks him to promise that he'll love her and nobody else. He does, and then removes his jacket and shirt and climbs into bed with her.
I will say, in the book, this was quite explicit.
Dude. All right.
Like, I was like, I said that's enough. Like, it's
and
a
the
lot.
terminology used, it's a whole lot. It's a lot.
Before, during, and after.
Yeah, no, everything.
Like, you can stop at any point.
There's no tasteful fade to black.
Nope.
It's like, they are showing each other the flesh.
Okay. All right.
Because in a post-flesh showing transition, Aoyama wakes up alone in bed. The phone rings and he gets up to answer it. It's the reception desk telling him that Asami has left and they're asking if he's still planning to stay. He's like, left? We just plowed. Like, what the? He's so confused. And in my mind, if I'm Aoyama, I'm thinking, okay, this is payback for me not calling her for forever.
Okay.
Or this is payback for something. What did I do?
What I do.
You know?
You were bad.
Because it literally makes no sense for this to happen.
Now, no.
I mean, they didn't have the cheesecake yet.
No, and that's what you came for.
That's the whole point.
That's what I came for.
And you still have your kidneys.
Yes. So, you didn't wake up in a bathtub, dude. You should be counting your lucky stars. She left. No. Feel your back, dude. Feel your back. But the next morning, Aoyama arrives at the office and speaks with Yoshikawa in a conference room. He tells him that Asami isn't answering her phone and that he doesn't know how to get in touch with her. Yoshikawa thinks there's more to the story in the hotel, but Aoyama's like, no, dude, there's not. And there really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
No.
But I'm with Yoshikawa because I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Why would she just leave? Aoyama says there must have been some kind of misunderstanding and that he needs to talk to her in person. Yoshikawa suggests that he just forgets about Asami and says that it would be best if he just didn't see her again. Aoyama's like, so you think I'm just some old fool who fell for a young girl and got jilted? And Yoshikawa's like, well, if the shoe fits, man.
Yes.
I wasn't going to say it, but here we are. He then reminds Aoyama that he said he could handle it, and he clearly cannot.
Yep.
It's just sad to me because he's been trying to tell him this whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
The whole
entire
fucking
time.
When he told him, I was like, you said that, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you literally, that came out of your mouth.
Well, he said, because he said something like, I think I can handle a young girl or something like that. And it's like, look at you now.
Yeah.
And then you're going to come to me for help?
Well, you're my friend.
Yeah.
The audacity.
No, it's rough. But Aoyama says to forget it and that he'll find her himself, and he storms out pissed.
Yeah, he's like big mad.
Oh, yeah. In his office, he combs through her application again, finding his first lead, Asami's training at Shimada Ballet Academy.
He's looking for any crumb of evidence, and then he runs away.
Yeah, he does. He literally, because immediately in the next scene, we see him arriving there.
Do you even have a job anymore, man?
No, I swear to God. But through several interesting Dutch angle shots, we see that he comes upon the academy. The academy is boarded up, but rather than just let it be a dead end, dude decides to break in.
Yeah.
Well, it's technically not breaking in, but
he literally pulls off the planks that are boarded in front of the door.
Yes, it's unbelievable. But he slowly makes his way inside where he finds an old man in a wheelchair played by Rinji Ishibashi. He's playing the piano as a fire burns next to him. We get a wide shot of the both of them as Aoyama enters the room. Now, the color palette here is chef's kiss.
It is.
Yeah.
You've got the warm tones of the Tokyo sun from the windows and the cold blue of the room that isn't directly lit by sunlight. I'll be quiet. I just love it so much. But Aoyama calls out to the man asking if he is in fact Shimada and saying that he has questions about Asami Yamazaki. As the fire crackles, the old man just tells him to go away.
What got me is he calls out to him and he completely ignores him.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute he says Asami, he's like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Like that's at the mention of her name. That's when I would be scared. I would already be scared of that.
This would be the only stop I made.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You know what? Maybe we just weren't meant to be.
Some things don't work out. But Aoyama persists. He says, have you ever had any trouble with Asami? And he wants to contact her, but he needs the old man's help. The old man begins to laugh, his back still to Aoyama.
I would throw up.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
That's the only-
wait, so you're telling me he'd laugh and you'd be like, just immediately. But he finally wheels around to face Aoyama. He asks him if he's seen her before, if he's heard her voice, and Aoyama's like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
But he wheels closer to Aoyama, and we get shaky POV shots as he asks, have you touched her body? Have you had sex with her? Violins shriek as he asks if it was good and laughs. In a flashback, we see Asami as a child, played by Ayaka Izumi, dancing ballet in this studio as well as inside her apartment. So the little girl listening to the radio, that shot that we saw earlier, was Asami.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In the studio, though, young Asami sits on the floor as the old man takes 2 metal chopsticks from the fire and burns the inside of her thigh as she screams. So that's where those 2 scars came from.
Awful.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Back in the present, the old man says Asami and then throws the blanket off of his lap. We see that he has 2 prosthetic feet. He struggles to stand, telling Aoyama to go away. But in the next scene, we see Aoyama splashing his face with cold water in a bathroom sink, and I get it because that was some freaky shit.
Yeah. Okay. So my question at this point, are y'all done?
Oh, if I'm Aoyama?
Yeah. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm going to die alone.
Oh, after that, yeah. No.
Yeah, we're done. We're not doing that. I don't care. First of all, I got sent on this fucking thing because my son said I looked like tired or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll just be tired. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Guess what? I am tired.
Yeah. He's like, I'm 50 something years old. Like
Right.
I'm very tired. But he remembers the Stonefish Bar, which Asami said was in the 4th district. We see him arriving there at night, making his way down a staircase in a POV shot. At the bottom of the staircase, he finds a door with mail shoved underneath it. A man calls out from above, "No one's in there."
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But he says it closed down over a year ago after the owner was murdered. He's like, what a mess. I'm like, what?
First of all, murder.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Like, it's nothing. Oh, yeah, the owner was murdered. Anyway,
Yeah.
carrying his groceries like he is.
Yeah, this dude literally just came ready to spill all the
Yeah.
tea. Like, he's just...
All casual.
I
Like.
mean,
Yeah.
you
Like-
want to know what happened, though? Because...
But when asked, he says that he doesn't remember anyone called Asami ever working there. But he says that the owner was murdered because of something having to do with her lover, a music director. Interesting. He says that the owner was dismembered in the bar, and he shares a fun fact that since the building was built a long time ago, the floor is tilted, so her blood poured into the hall.
Cool.
Thanks, Guy.
That's great.
But he says one odd thing about the murder. When the police gathered the owner's body, they found 3 extra fingers, as well as an extra ear and a tongue.
I bet they weren't extra to someone.
It's like, no,
Very necessary.
those were standard issue fingers. But in his mind's eye, Aoyama sees the body parts wriggling in blood on the ground. The stranger is like, crazy world, huh? Well, so long.
It's funny because he sees it in his mind and then he's like, whoa, fuck.
Yeah. Dude, he leaves Aoyama a shaking mess. Like,
Yeah.
he's like... But I do want to call out, of course, the lighting is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the way the scene is lit. But at Aoyama's apartment, Rie feeds Gangu before heading out.
That dog was ready to eat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That dog was me. I watched this movie hungry. I thought if I haven't explained that.
I think you'll lose your appetite. In
Oh, it's
just
coming.
a little bit. Yeah.
That's true. Once outside, though, the camera pans to follow Rie making her exit down the street. Then we're once again facing the Aoyama household. We see a door unlocking, which gets Gangu's attention. Then through frantic POV shots, we head up the stairs, throwing Aoyama's bedroom door open and focusing on the picture of Ryoku on his desk. Back downstairs, we focus on the bottle of whiskey sitting on the windowsill.
I'm not here for the Michael Myers point
Yeah.
of view. Nothing good is going to come from this.
Oh, no.
You never get that point of view with somebody putting roses on the
Yeah.
bed.
Oh, no.
Like, it's never anything good.
Or bringing me cheesecake.
Never. Or fish.
Or fish.
Yeah.
But Gangu heads to the living room to investigate, and in a static shot, we transition from day to night. And I love that shit.
Yeah.
But we hear Shigeko leaving a message on an answering machine saying he'll be staying at his friend's house for the evening and reminding his father to have a proper meal. Aoyama comes into frame, cell phone to his ear before hanging up. Now, this shot down the hallway, I realized was used a lot in this film.
Yeah.
And I thought it was smart because it's like, Not only is it reestablishing locations, but it's kind of showing the change in circumstance because now this angle is foreboding as shit.
Yeah, I was going to say it gives you almost like a false sense of security and then no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because before it's like, oh yeah, this is their home.
Right.
Yeah.
And now not so much. But hiding at the top of the stairs, we watch as Aoyama makes his way into the living room and pours himself a glass of whiskey. He takes a sip, then another, leaning his head back in his chair. After a moment, something is clearly wrong. He tries to shake it off, but then he grabs at his head and neck, rising from the chair and holding himself up in the doorway. He lifts his head for a moment and then collapses to the floor. He has been drugged.
What?
Yeah, I know. Oh, I thought the whiskey was just bad.
Right.
But we flash back in a dream to his second date with Asami after he waited days to call her. Except now, when he asks her about her family, he gets a different answer. We learn that when Asami was young, her parents divorced and she went to live with her uncle. She says she hated it there and that all she remembers is suffering abuse at the hands of her uncle's wife. She forced her to take cold baths and she even got pneumonia from it. She also remembers being pushed down the stairs and breaking her shoulder. After a doctor expressed concern, she went back to live with her mother again, but she said her mother had gotten remarried, but she says even though the abuse stopped, her stepfather hated her, which the abuse did not stop.
No.
I don't know why she said that.
Maybe she meant that abuse.
Yeah.
Her aunt.
Right.
Yeah, right.
That stopped. But she says that her stepfather couldn't walk, so he stayed home. Because of this, Asami would retreat to a dark room every day after school to avoid him until her mother came home.
So at this point, I'm like, is that Ballet Man?
That's what I'm thinking. I think that's her stepfather. But in a flashback within a flashback, we see young Asami lying on the floor of that room, and then she turns into adult Asami and we see the scars on her thigh. Asami apologizes to Aoyama, and now they're in that nicer restaurant, partially lit in red, and she tells him that ballet saved her life. Even though life was terrible, it took her pain away. Aoyama tells her he's been looking for someone like her, but he hears a voice say, "Darling," and he turns to see Ryoko and young Shigehiko sitting at an adjacent table. I think Misuzu is there as well.
Maybe, because there was 3 people there. I was just looking at his wife, but it may,
Because I'm like, you don't have a daughter.
Yeah.
No.
But he introduces her to Asami and she urges him not to marry her.
She is immediately like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And she looked up like, oh, cool. Like, it's not like just because it's another woman.
Yeah.
She saw her and was like, nope.
It's not a matter of her being jealous.
No.
Yeah.
It's about Asami.
And also, I just wanted to point out the fact, all she said about this abuse and everything, in the novel, she tells him that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
in real life.
For real, she tells him
Yeah.
that. And he's just like, wow, you've been through so much. That's why you're so wise for your age.
Right.
Yeah.
Still love you.
Uh-huh.
But
just trying to fit her into his box.
Yes. Yeah. No, you still fit. It's fine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But Ryoko stands up, but it transitions to a shot of Asami standing up in her apartment. I like that a lot. That looked really cool.
Yeah.
Aoyama just stands there and she tells him that she wants him. She then forcibly pulls down his pants and performs oral sex on him.
Well, at first he's fighting her, and then he's like, you know,
Wait a
if
minute.
you
Yeah.
insist, you know.
Doesn't put up much of a fight.
No.
But he looks away for a moment, and when he looks back, Asami has turned into his secretary. She reveals that they had sex once, and it must have been a mistake, is what she says. She feels foolish that it didn't mean anything to him, and he apologizes to her. So that explains a lot.
Fucking
Yeah.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
And it's framed. This is why I say I feel like for most of this film, we're seeing Aoyama's reality or his version of what's going on, because she seems very weird and like awkward, and he's super aloof and like, okay, yeah, congratulations, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm going somewhere. No, you're an asshole, dude, because when we see them like earlier in the film, they're all like, there are several people working in this one room,
Right.
and then he's got this big office to himself. I feel like that's enough to indicate he's the boss.
Yes.
Right.
So like, fuck you, dude. Like even more, like already fuck you, but like more fuck you. Because not only did you obviously have sex with this woman,
Right.
you're acting, you know, he's the type of dude that'll show up at work and just be like, oh, good morning, and just act like nothing. Like
He's Don Draper.
he's Don Draper, dude. Like he's a fucking asshole.
And I 100% agree. And to me, this only hints at a history of using women.
Yes.
So it's like, well, we're seeing the secretary now,
Right.
but how many women has this been?
Yeah.
And what happened in those 7 years?
Right.
Yeah.
Because before
and
I was
even-
sympathetic.
Right,
yeah,
right.
and even you mentioned that Reneé kind of like looks at him for a moment or something. Did you fuck her too?
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me. Did you?
God damn.
I'm mad.
You piece of shit.
Yeah, Kent's definitely gonna call me scared.
You're gonna get some,
Did you sleep with her as well?
Mister.
You piece of shit.
But the secretary.
I've dropped my pen.
Yeah, that's how mad you are. But the secretary turns back into Asami, who says that she'll do anything to please him. Asami then turns into his son's girlfriend, and Aoyama tries to push her away.
So, okay. The whole film I've talked about Aoyama compartmentalizing these women.
Yes.
And so to me, and tell me if you interpreted it differently, but it's almost like in his mind, he's like, this is a woman in my
Periphery
that I don't have a box for, because I don't think Shigehiko has been dating or anything, right?
Right.
Because it was kind of a big deal that he brought a woman or a girl to the house.
Right.
So she doesn't fit in these boxes. She's not washing my clothes. She's not cooking for me. She's not working for me. So his mind's almost like, yes. And then he's like, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because, I mean...
Sex? No.
No.
Right?
I think...
Or am I just really mad at this?
No, I think that makes sense because it seems as though every woman has a use
Exactly.
to him.
Yeah.
And like you said, he has no idea where to even put her. So he's like, well, I guess she might as well be... Wait, no, I can't think that.
Yeah, no, she's a fucking teenager.
Yeah.
But it's like... women are not Swiss Army knives. Like,
No.
They don't only exist to fucking open cans for you or whatever the fuck you do with the Swiss Army knife.
You're like, I've never been in the army in Switzerland. But as he turns to run, because he's I'm getting the fuck out of here. He trips over the large sack that is sat next to Asami's phone. It moves, and Aoyama walks closer to it, nudging it with his foot. He kneels down to untie it, but it lurches up on its own, opening up. A man with long hair crawls out. We see he is missing 3 fingers on his right hand, as well as an ear and both of his feet. He moans an indecipherable cry, and we also see that he's missing his tongue. Our view is obstructed of Asami as we hear her vomiting. She rounds the corner, holding an overflowing dog dish. We flash back to the conversation Aoyama had with the oversharing stranger about body parts being found at that crime scene. An extra ear, a tongue, and 3 fingers.
Again, they weren't extra.
No,
Right.
He's like, I need those.
They weren't extra. I have to say, not a lot gets to me.
Oh, God.
That vomit bowl, I literally was like,
Yeah, me too.
covering part of the screen. It was so
I couldn't.
fucking disgusting. And I read on IMDb, I don't know if this is true or not, but they said that was really her vomit. That she's a method actress and she insisted on vomiting into the bowl. I don't know. I didn't write it. I just read it on IMDb.
We have a lot of fun here at Podmortem. But that might be the worst thing I've ever heard. And I gotta be honest with you, considering that she was a model before she became an actress, I don't think her first role she's gonna be a method actress. So I'm gonna choose not to believe that.
That's true. It's even like, if you scroll all the way to the bottom in the trivia and it's like spoilers, like it's even like, listen, this is gonna give something away, but
Like,
yeah,
I can't. I refuse. My brain will not allow me to believe that.
I'll join you.
But Asami sets the dog dish down in front of the man, who laps it up greedily. Asami turns into herself as a child and pets the man's back as he continues to eat. He says it's yummy.
Right.
I'm going to fucking throw up.
Well, unlike you guys not watching, I did. And he has a tongue for a second.
Well,
So
You were watching.
so you're telling me he wasn't a method actor?
No. He did not cut his tongue off.
cut my tongue out.
But I do want to point out, it's not explicitly stated, and there's a little confusion here, but the actor who plays the man in the bag is named Rin Osugi, and he's credited as Shimada, although it would make a lot more sense if he was credited as Mr. Shibata, the music industry person who disappeared, because Shimada was the name of the person who ran the ballet academy.
Oh, fuck, you're
okay.
right. I always
Right.
thought he was the music guy.
Yeah, I assumed that was obvious, but when the credits say Shimada, I was like, I think you guys fucked up.
Okay, so
IMDb.
hang on. Help me piece this together very quickly.
Okay.
So the owner of the Stonefish was a woman.
Yes.
and she was involved with a music producer, right?
Mr. Shibata.
So, because in the novel they mention him kind of being a womanizer because nobody knows where he's at, and they're like, oh, he was nasty, he used women, whatever. He probably just took off, or somebody's man got mad or something. So, are we to believe here that he was involved with Asami? He was cheating on Asami with the Stonefish owner?
Yes, that's what I believe.
And then Asami's like, oh,
no.
hell no?
Right.
And then so she kills the owner, and then she's like, oh, you want him so bad? Here's 3 fingers and here and a...
Right, and a tongue.
And a tongue.
And then she's like, and now you get in the bag.
Yeah.
Just making sure I got it.
That's one way to deal with it.
Get in the bag.
Get in the bag. I've heard of bad breakups, but yeah.
Yikes.
But she reminds Aoyama that he said he'll only love her as he falls to the floor. In the dark room behind him, the old man in the wheelchair, who I think we all agree is Asami's stepfather,
Right.
Yeah.
just appears. He stands up, inching closer to Asami on his prosthetic feet. He falls to his knees with the metal chopsticks in hand, pleading with Asami to dance for him. We see flashbacks of her dancing ballet. In the pale blue light of the studio, an adult Asami sinks to the floor as her stepfather crawls toward her and burns her inner thigh with the metal chopsticks. In the studio, we see the old man playing piano as Asami sneaks up behind him with a wire saw. She wraps it around his throat, telling him that it cuts through bone very easily before tightening it. Blood pours around his neck as he tells her she's wonderful. She replies that she never felt unhappy because she never stopped being unhappy. That gave me chills.
Yeah.
It's the saddest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Because it's so normal, you can't even call it unhappiness because that's your regular.
It's just, you're normal.
Goddamn. And so I do want to say at this point, I am
good for her.
Yeah. I'm Lucille Bluth.
Yeah.
Like
good for her.
I feel a lot of sympathy for Asami. Granted, the actions she takes are not entirely excusable. And we got to talk about that dog dish, but I do feel bad for her a lot.
Yeah. I'm not going to say that everything she does later on is warranted, but I mean, this dude deserved not to have a head anymore.
I think that it's what's best for society. But through various shots and repeated lines, we see Ryoku staring out of her hospital window, Rie making it sweet with someone at the bottom of the stairs, and Aoyama sat in the audition room. I don't know who Rie was banging.
It looked from the hair, and maybe this was a fucking fever dream to
yes,
me.
because I had an idea, and if it's the same, that's
is
really...
Is it the man in the bag?
Ew, no.
That's what I thought from his hair.
The man in the bag looked like old boy. I thought I thought she was banging Shigehiko.
Ew.
Because his hair looked like his hair, but I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
it looked long. Shigehiko's hair was lighter than that.
Maybe I was just confused.
I thought it was the man in the bag because he's the only man that I've seen with long hair. But
was the hair that long?
Yeah, it was. I think I feel like I'm Aoyama and I'm all fucked up now. My question is, do you guys think that they did something, him and Rie?
Yes.
Okay,
I do.
I don't know.
I don't think he would be. It's like maybe that on the stairs or whatever. That's where they had a situation, and now they just don't talk about it. Or
maybe.
I mean, I don't know. But that, he had that split second of something in his mind almost happening with the teenage girl, and that never happened. So maybe not. But I think yes, because I don't like Aoyama. And
no,
he kind of likes. What did you say? Making it sweet with women that he sees as subservient to him.
Right.
So it's kind of, again,
it fits.
Power dynamic.
Gross.
He's sick. But speaking of fucking fever dream, the bartender from his first meeting with Yoshikawa shakes the martini shaker behind Asami as she continues to saw through her stepfather's throat. He was not there.
He wasn't there. But that dude was shaking that shit.
It's going to be a good drink. But the old man's decapitated head falls onto the piano with a dissonant thud, tumbling to the floor, and we once again watch Aoyama collapse to the ground from his drugged booze in his living room. What a sequence.
Okay, but none of this really happened, right?
Now, The difficulty I have here is there would be no way for Aoyama to know any of this. The way that I kind of made it make sense in my mind is that as he's drugged and laying on the floor, Asami is telling him pieces of it.
This is what John Paul told me that broke the movie for me.
Okay.
Because I was like, no, it really happened. And he's like, but he was dreaming. And I'm like, no, it happened. And then I walked away and was like,
shit.
Hold on.
Well,
but as we were sitting here talking, that occurred to me.
Okay.
That as he's drugged, she's telling him, you know what? Actually, no, my family isn't normal. I was abused. She's telling him this as he's drugged, and his mind is
he's trying to make sense of it. That's why you see the bartender, because it's like weird shit from his memories.
Yeah.
But he's also trying to imagine what the fuck any of this is from what she's saying, and so it's all kind of colliding together.
Every other time I've watched it, this is just Miike finding a very interesting way to tell the audience what Asami is all about.
Yeah.
Through Aoyama, but he would, like you said, he wouldn't know that.
He wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the
how
way
I'm going to take
Well,
it.
the way-
You're right. It is a dream.
Right.
Yeah.
But the aspects that he wouldn't know, because the whole, like, my brain's been fucked up all day ever since you said that to me, to be honest. And as we're going through the film, I'm like, but how would he know about the bag? Like, he wouldn't know. We know that the bag's real because we saw it. That isn't in a dream.
Well,
so that's the only way to...
But all this is only happening in the dream.
Yeah.
The bag is a representation of her baggage. That's why we don't see it when we see it with her and whatever, but we don't see the guy come out.
It could be.
And I get all that, you know, and to me, I took it as like he's piecing this together behind all the details he's just found out. Everything he's found out, everything he's seen, he's like, oh shit, I fucked up.
Oh, well, yeah.
And he's just kind of like, this is his mind trying to work out and making a scenario, or trying to answer and fill in all the blanks of what happened. Who is this girl? This is what happened, and this is, you know, where she's, and he's just like, this, something's wrong.
I agree with that. I think my only thing is that there is imagery that is too specific.
No, I get that,
you know,
but I just don't see that girl sitting there on the floor with her legs crossed, giving them the dirty.
I do.
Shit.
Well, in all fairness, I mean,
yeah, okay, but that was a long time.
But she did tell him in the novel all of that stuff.
So
minus the murder and the bag.
But
minus the bag.
But the murder he found out from the guy, and it was only gruesome because he was seeing it, he was imagining it. So that's why I was like, well, this is just his mind trying to answer shit he doesn't have the answers to.
I honestly feel like it could be. That's what's so interesting watching this movie this time, is I had such a sure thought of what this movie was and what it meant, and this time I'm like, you know what? No, none of that is right.
Right.
So you could be right. In my mind, she has a man in a bag.
Right.
And that's the only way for me to explain what's happening here, is I think she did drug him.
Right.
And she's like, while you're laying there, let me tell you what's really fucking going on.
Or tell you what really happened.
And his mind is his mind is digesting it while also being drugged, and while also, you know, superimposing his own fucking baggage.
That's why you're seeing Ryoku. That's why you're seeing things that she wasn't there for, like that bartender.
Yeah.
It's kind of his mind piecing it all together, but also hearing what's being told to him. That's the way I perceived it.
No.
Yeah,
but not at all saying that you're wrong, because I think that
I just felt, I was like, what? Because I remember when we did watch it before, I thought a lot of what he was seeing, I was like, oh shit, she's doing this, or this is what happened.
Yes.
And then watching it this time, I was like, that didn't even happen. I was like, what?
The only thing that gave me pause was seeing her decapitate the old man.
Yeah,
because
today.
she would have had to have killed him today.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the only, you know.
Maybe she's just done, and she's like,
honestly, it could be because she's already coming back for his ass.
Right.
Yeah, I got him, and I'm gonna get you too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say that you broke my brain with it being a dream, because all the times I've seen this, and as fucking weird and crazy, like I said at the beginning, this was a movie where I would show my friends,
right,
you want to see some freaky shit? I've seen this several times.
Right.
It was never a dream to me. Ever.
No.
See, I thought that
Because when you
too.
said that, I'm sure you remember I was quite dismissive.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. No, that really happened.
You're like, God damn
And
it.
now I'm like, it just kept. I think of the old Dane Cook joke where he says your girlfriend says something and then it rolls off and then later it just fucking hits you. That's what it was. I was like, whatever. Wait. Fuck, it was a dream.
Yeah.
Takashi Miike confirmed that one thing is absolutely real because this whole last bit is so fucking bananas.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you after.
Right.
But there's only one thing that he said for sure is real. Everything
Okay.
else basic that I could find anyway.
Right.
Obviously, I don't read Japanese.
Right.
Everything else is up to interpretation.
Okay.
So please continue.
All right. Now, but before we move on, Dane Cook.
I know. I'm sorry.
Wow.
That's all you got.
I really liked Dane Cook when I was a teenager.
I think
You did. You were watching the specials with me. So
Yeah, and I
stop.
was
I
laughing.
like to cook.
I was laughing.
Nah. Anyway,
He stole jokes.
he did a lot of them. But Asami walks into the room wearing a leather apron and long leather gloves. Now, this to me is where I wanted to bring up her wearing all white because now everything is completely shifted.
Right.
She puts black on top of that
Oh,
white.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is who I really am.
So what do you think the red was then?
Transition?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You answered so fast.
I answered monotone because I was scared. I didn't expect to be asked.
She's attracting her prey.
Yeah.
She's getting them to.
Oh.
Yeah, the bull.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're getting to the bottom of this.
We'll get there. It might take us a while. But
Yes. But this is the one part that I can't forgive. She's also murdered Gangu.
Yeah. That was the top of my list. Poor dog.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve anything.
No.
In the novel, she does
Dude.
it in front of him.
and
In
it's
front of Aoyama. And
way
it's
more graphic.
bad. It's really bad.
And I will say
Dog
something.
didn't need that.
No.
Something very hilarious from the novel. The author compares Gangsta's corpse to that of a Beanie Baby.
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, this was written in the 90s. But Asami retrieves items from her bag and after filling a syringe, crouches down at Aoyama's head.
That's a really iconic shot of her holding that
Oh, yeah.
syringe.
It's on everything.
It is.
But she grabs his tongue and stabs the needle into it, injecting him with a paralyzing agent. She says he'll be completely paralyzed, but his nerves will remain alive. She rolls him over, spreading out a sheet, then rolls him back on top of it. She then snags a pair of scissors and cuts his sweater off.
She's clearly done this before.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's a pro.
Yeah. It's like down to a science.
Yeah.
She tells him he invites girls to the audition, rejects them, then calls them later for sex. She says they're all the same. After unbuttoning his shirt, she grabs a stash of very long needles and gauze. She politely cleans the area before plunging the needles into his abdomen. He launches up in pain involuntarily as she leans closer to relish it. In a sing-songy way, she says, "Deeper, deeper," as she jabs him with more needles.
I saw in that interview with her that her and Miike came up with that day.
Oh,
The
shit.
way she kiri-kiri-kiri,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
came up with that day.
I love it so much.
Yeah, because he's like, you don't want to just like, you still need to be cute. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
makes
yeah.
it scary, kind of, and funny, I guess.
There is
And-
it's like a dark comedy about it
Right.
because her stabbing him with the needles and going kitty kitty kitty.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
but it's not.
But it's really not though.
It is.
I remember seeing that she said people would say that to her on the street.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they would.
That's so funny. But she tells Aoyama that words lie, but pain doesn't. When you're in pain, you see yourself clearly. We get a shot of his abdomen, dozens of needles poking out of it, and blood surrounding the puncture sites. She slides up his abdomen, wrenching the needles as she does. That made me cringe, man.
Smush him.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
Ugh.
come on.
But she's now face to face with him, and she readies another needle. With a sick grin, she plunges 3 into his lower eyelids. She flicks them with a heavily metallic sound and tells him pain and suffering make you realize who you are.
Thanks, I hate it. The sound it makes and the view that we have of her, almost like we're Aoyama.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's a lot.
So bad.
And this is the absolute shift of the power dynamic.
Oh, yeah.
He could not have less power.
Literally, no.
But she then readies the wire saw, asking him about his son and saying once he suffers, Aoyama will understand more clearly. He begs her not to hurt him, but she says, "See, you love him. You told me you'd only love me."
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I took it as that's what set her off in the book.
Yes.
Because we get this, as I said, quite explicit flesh scene, okay? And then he wakes up just like the film.
Yeah.
And she's gone. And he's trying to piece back what happened. And he remembers telling her, I have a son.
Right.
And that's what she's like, oh, so like you literally promised to only love me, but you love this little motherfucker too. And that's what sets her off. But here, I feel like she was just like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Dude.
I get her need for love.
Of
I
course.
feel the same way. Just love me. But you're going about it the wrong way.
Yes, this is not going to make him.
Yeah.
No.
Now, one thing I will say is that Takashi Miike kind of hinted at her past, and he said that to her, love and torture are intertwined.
Well, that's all she's known.
And so this is kind of her way of showing him how much she loves him.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
There's also commentary, I feel like, in the book about, because like we said, she tells him, what she had been through for real, not in a dream or as he's drugged or however you want to interpret that. But she tells him for real when they're on the date. And he's kind of like, oh, so you get shit because you've been through shit.
Right.
And so there's almost this messaging of you have to hurt to, be alive or have knowledge or get life or whatever. Like it's almost like a rite of passage. You have to feel pain to be worthy almost.
Right.
And so
that's what attracted him to her in the first place.
Yeah. You had something you loved ripped away from you. Guess what? Me too. So it's like, it's just this weird messaging. So maybe you're right. You haven't suffered enough, but you're about to though. I mean, I don't know.
But she says that even if she gives herself entirely to him, he could never do the same for her. Tightening a shackle around his ankle, she tells him that he can't go anywhere without his feet. She stretches the wire saw, telling him it cuts through bone easily, just like from the dream sequence.
Yeah, I love how she does a little infomercial for the wire every time she uses it.
And if you act now...
But wait, there's more.
But he begs for her to stop, and she cinches the saw around his ankle. She twists the saw left and right joyously, and we flash back to her stepfather watching her dance ballet, masturbating feverishly.
Again, he got what he had coming.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Now, again, this moment, when you intercut these two scenes together, it's, in my mind, the marriage of both of them in her head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way to...
No, I mean, yeah, how else can you take that?
Yeah. And it's also, and it's way less, good Lord, I swear to God, in the book, they fucking spell everything out for you like you're in freshman psych. But it's clear that she's cutting off his feet because it resembles her stepfather.
Right.
In the book, they're like... Aoyama thought, I bet this is why. And I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. But blood pours from Aoyama's foot as the saw cuts through the bone, detaching it completely.
It looked really good.
It looked great.
Oh, yeah.
I was so amazed by it. But she smiles at a job well done, throwing his foot at a nearby window, leaving a streak of blood. I have to call out the sound design... You just said the effects, but both, the marriage of both, it's incredible. I love this so much. It's awful, but it's incredible. But she cinches the saw around his other foot and begins to saw away, stopping only when she hears Shigehiko enter the house, calling out for his father. She grabs mace from her bag and retreats from the room. Shigehiko says his friend got sick and they had to call an ambulance. It was a whole thing. He glosses over that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's crazy, man.
Sounds very important, but okay. But Aoyama tries to move and get up to warn his son, but Shigehiko enters the room and finds his father on the ground. Stunned, he asks what happened. Behind him, we see the kitchen door open slowly as Asami sprays the mace. Just then, Aoyama wakes up in the hotel room with Asami sleeping by his side. He catches his breath and with fear in his eyes, tears the blanket off of his legs to reveal that his feet are still there. Filled with relief, he splashes his face with cold water in the bathroom.
So I have a question.
Okay?
Yeah.
If this were a dream, all of it,
Uh-huh.
and you're still in the hotel room with her, she never left, y'all just showed each other the flesh and went to bed, do you stay with her after dreaming this?
No.
I say no.
No. There's no way.
Well, I mean, we can see what happens.
No. You're not going to cut my feet off.
Even in a dream? You remember fucking
You shoot
Mr.
me in a
White?
dream,
You better wake up and apologize.
Shit.
In my mind, I just had a premonition, and
Yeah.
it was
Oh, no,
very
yeah.
nice to know you, but goodbye.
I'm going to be like, I'm going to need to see your apartment. If I find one fucking bag.
Right? Is that a trash bag? Nope.
That's it. No.
Yeah,
This isn't going to work.
We're fucking done, son. But after he washes his face, he's like, what the fuck? Like, he's trying to process it all. He turns to see Asami waiting for him in the door frame, and she asks him if he's okay. He says that he is, and they return to bed together. Lying next to each other, she tells him that she's decided to accept his proposal. He's like, proposal?
Yeah.
She holds him close and asks if she's allowed to be happy. She says out of all the girls who went to the audition, she's the luckiest. She may not be the heroine of the film, but she is one in real life. And Aoyama drifts off to sleep.
Well, he makes the I've made a huge mistake
Yeah.
face, and then he drifts off to
That's
sleep.
fair, he did. But this is when his illusion gets shattered because he hears Asami say, deeper, deeper.
I was out.
That's all I thought, I swear.
It's not fair.
No, it's not.
You know what? Maybe it's a little fair.
Yeah, because I still fucking kind of hate this dude.
No, he's a piece of shit. But I don't know if he deserves to be tortured and his son attacked. And
Right.
I feel like, well, I feel like the extent, again, inappropriate response, Asami.
Right.
Right?
Too far.
Too far. Too scary, Carl. But he wakes up back in reality on the floor of his living room, needles still protruding out of him and his foot sawed off. Shigehiko turns around to meet Asami's mace being sprayed at him, and he narrowly avoids it, falling to the floor and asking who she is. He runs upstairs, falling down, and she follows him up there. She sprays the mace into his face, and he instinctively and defensively kicks her, which sends her flying down the stairs. Now, this was kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
It was only funny because she flew 3 times.
Yeah. She fucking
Yeah,
launched the
he
shit out
did.
of her.
She's got a little ballerina in her yet. But yeah, it was the third. By the third time, I was like, instant replay.
Yeah. I was like, God damn.
Interesting.
Fucking kill cam. I was like, damn, dude.
But Asami lands at the bottom of the stairs in a heap. Shigehiko looks down at her and her broken neck rattles as she struggles to breathe. Shigehiko checks on his father, who from his view sees Asami's dying body staring at him and reaching out to him. Shigehiko calls the police and requests an ambulance immediately for his father and Asami. He explains his father's injuries to the dispatcher as Aoyama makes eye contact with Asami. Asami softly repeats what she told him on their date. I thought you were busy. I don't understand your business. You may think I'm a clingy sort of woman, but I've been waiting and waiting for your call. Aoyama begins to sob as Asami says, I thought I'd never see you again. Soft piano begins to play as she tells him she can't stop smiling because she's so happy. She's been alone all her life with no one to talk to. She's never met anyone like him who understands and accepts her. Aoyama's words echo. It'll be hard to get over, but you'll find life is wonderful one day. That's why we carry on with our lives. In the final shot of the film, young Asami sits on the floor and ties the ribbon of her ballet shoes. We fade to black, and the credits roll. So, what did you guys think of Audition?
What a bitch.
Wow. That is not what I anticipated.
She was just sitting there just like, I was fooling you the whole
So
time.
is that how you took it?
Yeah.
Okay, and every other time that I've watched it, in my mind, he's remembering her saying that, and he's still like, damn, like, I wish, we could have made it work.
Oh, no, I took it as her like,
She's like,
I
nah,
played
nah,
the
nah, nah.
shit out of you.
I feel like it's almost as if he was auditioning for her and didn't even know it.
Yikes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I got to tell you, to be honest, man, seeing that shot of her tying her ballet shoes almost brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
Because it's like, God damn, dude. She found something that gave her an escape from this hell.
Right.
And it got taken away from her. And then really, society created the monster that she became.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's blameless because she did a lot of fucked up shit.
No, but in nature versus nurture, this was definitely nurture.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was outside factors that turned her into this. And her way of responding to it may have not been conditional. But
No.
I feel, and this is the thing is that, and I know I asked you guys what you thought of it, but
This is what I think about it.
let me just say this and then I'll let you guys go. I feel like for the first time watching this film, I see her as way more of a sympathetic character than I see Aoyama.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is my first time watching it and not being like, that poor man.
Yeah. I liked the movie.
Yeah.
I did like the movie. The only thing I know I said earlier, it kind of dragged for me this time. You know what I mean? And I guess it was like you said, I kind of already know what's coming, so
Yeah.
it's like I'm just waiting for that.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. I think it was an hour 27 before shit just kind of hit the fan.
Fair.
And then
That sounds about right.
and then the rest of it is the shit.
I think like 40 something minutes in is when we see the bag move, but that's the
Right.
first bit
But
of
yeah.
like
the
actual
first
horror.
indication.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
For a little while.
Yeah. So I do enjoy the movie, and I did enjoy it, and I hope I don't get too much hate. I wouldn't say I'd put it in like my rotation, but visiting it, you know what I mean, over some time, yeah. You know what I mean? But I don't know if it's something I'd throw. I guess it's because of that, the slow burn, and then it's like everything's just bam, and then it's like, all right, now we're done.
I don't know that it's a movie that needs to be watched
Okay.
over and over and over.
Well-
To be fair.
I could see this falling into the category of people only watching it once.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I would understand, you know.
Oh,
if
no,
somebody
yeah.
never watched it again. The one thing that I had said that I found Takashi Miike said was real was the torture.
Oh, okay.
So I guess he didn't really confirm or deny about the dream sequence
Right.
or whatever, but he did say that when he snaps back and he's being fucking tortured, that's 100% happening.
Well, yeah.
Because a lot of people think that he went to bed in the hotel room and he's dreaming the whole back half of the film. A lot of people think that.
I don't.
I also read some really interesting theories about, you know, kind of backing up the theory that none of the ending really happened was Aoyama confronting the heroine that he wrote and her turning into a villain and him kind of, again, making her subservient to him by basically killing him. Killing her, excuse me.
But in reality, Aoyama didn't write this.
Right. I'm just telling you, 'cause I went down some Reddit rabbit holes, man, after John Paul fucked my head up saying that it was a dream. But the question was, do I like it? And I
believe.
do. I do like this movie still. And I think that there's something special to be said about a film that I've seen this many times, and I'm still like, I've watched this wrong like 15 times.
No, yeah, I think that too. Not that it hurt it, but like you saying, we find out that he's really just, you know what I mean, a piece of shit.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's still living and looking in the old ways, and he's trying to, you know what I mean? And it's like, how do I feel bad for you, or do I like for your? I mean, I feel bad for the dog. The dog
and
didn't
the kid.
deserve
The
that.
kid
Dog
didn't
didn't
do
do
anything
And
either.
the son. Well, you know, it was just kind of like, I don't want to feel bad for this guy. You know, we haven't seen any of the things that he's done.
No.
We're kind of hinted at, like you said, with the secretary and maybe the housekeeper or whatever. But I mean, she's like, you do this all the time. It's like, well, we don't know that.
But maybe he does, though.
But we don't know that.
That's kind of where I got the idea that maybe she was scouting him.
Right.
Maybe.
Because she's like, you're all the same. You
Okay,
call
see,
girls.
that would-
like, you know.
That would make it more sense.
It
Don't
feels
treat
like that.
women badly.
No.
Well, no, but I'm just saying.
It's like something we can all agree
That's
on.
what I'm taking away from it.
Yeah.
I read, and I thought this was interesting because I feel like it would be the opposite if this were an American film. I read that Miike wanted to end the film before the torture started. That it was to be implied and then just kind of cut off.
Okay.
But the producers told him to man up.
Holy
and
shit.
if you're going to do it, do it.
Right.
He was like, all right.
Well,
I feel like an American film, they'd be like, maybe we should pull back on that a little bit. You know, so I kind of like that they made him, because I feel like the word of mouth of the back end of this movie is going to make, or it has made, it's a fucking 20-year-old film. It has made more people watch it. And I feel like this is a movie that should be watched.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you only watch it that one time. And even if you have a different interpretation of it, as obviously you can, which, you know,
blows
what?
my mind.
But yes, I like this film.
Very good. But that does kind of bring me to my question before we get to ratings that I brought up earlier, where we have kind of two sides of the aisle here, where some people call this the greatest feminist horror film of all time, and others say it's a misogynistic piece of shit. So, I mean, where do we land there? I know which side I land on, but I'm interested in yours.
Yes.
To what?
Yeah.
It's both. But I will say that because him and Yoshikawa are both misogynistic. But that's flipped on its head by this woman being like, no, fuck that.
Right.
So, and you know, of course, the fucking pedo stepfather and all that shit. But I, for that reason, I would have to land on the feminist side of the coin. There is misogyny in this film, but it's not a misogynistic film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I agree. I'll elaborate more, but I want to hear what JP thinks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both.
Man, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay.
When I like when you guys come in and you feed me this information. But like this movie, I didn't even look at it like that, like at all. I was just like I said, I'm like, man, the way I came into it, like I said, I was like, these guys are jerks. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't understand where you were going with this. Or this is the way the everyday men, is this what's going on over there? Or do you know people like this? Or is this like some kind of stereotype that, directors and producers get or what, It's like, you got what you deserve, dude. If this is what you're doing to women, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, dude. Maybe you didn't deserve to get your feet cut off, but come on, stop that. And then for her too, like you've been saying, you take it a bit too far. You know what I mean? I get it.
Yeah.
Reel it in just a little bit.
I mean, I get she's getting her revenge, but she still died.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what?
Yeah. And that's kind of sad to me personally.
Yeah. She needed help.
Yeah.
And everyone failed her.
Yeah.
And it's funny even saying that, because the way I've always watched this film, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, she's crazy. Yeah. Now I'm like, no, y'all did that to her.
Yeah.
And you, Aoyama, were a part of that world that did that to her.
I think that's exactly where I get the idea that it is a feminist film.
Yeah.
Because you are presenting misogyny through those characters, but it's not anything that's being rewarded.
Right.
No. Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
And it's really setting up a very sympathetic woman that you watch. You're like, no, society fucking did this to her.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know it does center around, I guess, a woman kind of losing it over a man. But at the same time, for me, it's like, who had the power there? She fucking turned that shit on its head.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation to be had. I do think that sometimes it takes a lot of the fun out of films.
Yeah.
It definitely can. But I also feel like Takashi Miike always had the messaging there, and I just wasn't old enough, or not even speaking in terms of age, but mature enough to understand. And now I'm like, well, goddamn, this is a whole other movie.
Yeah. And I think, again, about revisiting films when you get older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have an entirely different perspective on this.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm always like, yeah, I love Audition, man. That movie's crazy. Da, 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 da. And I still love it, but for completely different reasons now. And so it's just watch movies you haven't seen in a long time, because holy shit.
Long story short.
Yes.
But I guess that brings us to ratings. Now, I always liked this film, but this time I truly realized I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's such a complex film and it doesn't get the credit for its complexity. Because you have characters that are both very flawed,
Right.
and in their own ways, in their own values, sympathetic.
Yeah. But all you get is, man, she cuts his fucking foot off, man.
One thing I do want to point out is I think the film is incredibly nihilistic because this whole thing started because he had hope of finding love.
Yeah.
And this is where that shit led.
You thought.
Led.
I think all of our brains are done.
My brain's fried. I appreciate it doesn't hold your hand like the novel does regarding like Asami's reasoning behind everything. I think the ideas it presents in the dynamics are very interesting and worthy of debate, depending on whatever side you land on.
Right.
But I can't say enough about Eiji Shiina. I think she created such an interesting character.
Absolutely. And for somebody who had never acted before.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. But I'll go on and on and on, so I'll stop. So I'll just say out of 10 eyelid needles, I am going to give Audition 9.5 out of 10 eyelid needles. I know this movie is not perfect, so I'm taking off the 0.5 there.
Right.
I just feel like there is such an interesting message in this, and it rewards you on a rewatch.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like, I don't know, it's just so iconic, a lot of the scenes. It's nice to see, well, I guess it's not nice to see what Asami does to him, but
I'd love to see it.
it's nice to see her take the power back. How about that?
For sure.
But I will now open the floor to you.
All right. I do want to start off by saying I do really, really like this movie. And as I stated before, if you haven't seen it, watch it. You know what I mean? Go check it out. Watch it a couple times so you can kind of see everything and figure out and catch things you didn't miss, whatever. But like I said, for me, watching it again now, you know, understanding more, getting to see it, I'm like... The run, I'm sorry, but the hour 27 for anything like really to pop off was a big. I was like, oh my! But it leads to you want to see the ending. Like it's like, okay, come on. You know it's a good movie, but you're just the anticipation. You're just sitting there like, come on. All right. I don't need to see all this. Let's, you know what I mean? And then you're just kind of sitting there. I think, and I'm not saying I love the movie, and I was pretty tired from work, but I think your sister even woke me up one time.
I did.
Because
he was sitting there, and I was like,
God damn it.
Looked back and his eyes were closed. And I was like, you're supposed to be working.
Well, I just came from work. But I mean, that's kind of all I was waiting for. And that kind of dampened it for me. You know what I mean? Because I was like, man, I really just want to see the end. And then finding out this whole time, like your sister said, I'm like, oh man, poor dude, and he didn't deserve any of that shit. And then I'm watching it now, I'm like, oh no, you're a scumbag.
You were duped.
Yeah, I was
oh
no, you know what I mean? I was like, you just got what was coming to you. And I was like, man. So it did kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of hurt it a little bit for me. And I think I kind of just, I don't know if I did it to myself or, you know what I mean? I just kind of like, oh man. But I do recommend the movie to anybody. Anyone who hasn't seen it, go watch it. You know what I mean? Like I said, check it out a couple of times. I can't go as high as that.
That's fine.
But I do like the movie. And like I said, and you might be right. It might be one we have to revisit after some good time has passed.
Right.
But for me, Audition, I'm going to have to give an 8.5 eyelid needles out of 10.
Very respectable.
Like I said, I do like the movie. I really do. But like I said, seeing it now, I'm like, you're not what I thought you were.
No,
fucker, you know?
feel duped.
You do.
Yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest. I came to the table with a 9.
Okay.
And I was like, I have my opinions. What a surprise. I have my thoughts. I have my opinions. I have a whole new appreciation for this film. And again, to be completely honest, when we all got together to record, we were like, this is a pretty straightforward story.
Yeah.
This is our last few episodes have been quite lengthy.
Yeah.
And we were all sure that this was not going to be.
Right.
And here we are. So I had more opinions than I thought. And I had more to say than I thought. And again, I appreciate this film in an entirely different way than, however 14, 15-year-old me the first time I saw it, and 20-year-old me, and 25-year-old me. Every other time I've seen this film, it's been a different film.
Right.
So that makes me, honestly, I can't give it a 10, even though I want to.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to agree with you and do a 9.5 because just having the conversation, and really sometimes I don't know what I think until I start talking. And then I'm letting me know while I'm letting you guys know.
Let's talk it out.
Yeah, it's not perfect, so I'm not going to give it a 10, but I do want to bump it up more than the 9 that I came with because I had a lot to say, and I surprised me too. So, on a scale from 1 to 10, eyelid needles, I'm also going to give Audition a 9.5.
All right.
This is a really important film for reasons that I've never fully appreciated.
Right.
And if y'all watched it differently, or if you think that we're fucking crazy, let us know, because I feel like you could totally watch this and get a completely, I did myself, get a completely different narrative, honestly. But I'll stop talking for once. 9.5 Audition. If you haven't watched it in a while, fucking watch it again because... wow.
Yeah.
100%. And I do know people who flat out hate this film.
Right.
So you guys you let us know where you land. Well, that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate Audition and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at the Pod Mortem. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at TravisMWH, at Blood and Smoke, and at RealStreeter84. Please consider pledging to our Patreon and stay tuned until after the music for a special thank you to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, no matter who they are, people have value outside of what they can do for you. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned. We want to give a very special shout out to all of our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Woo!
Woo!
Special thank you to Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Melanie Van Houston, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent and Allison O'Morton, Guy54, Lala Thomas, Travis and Nisa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Mandy, Jennifer Perez, Pepperoni Pierre, Jacob Tyler, Carissa, TJ Bronson, Gabrielle Trevino, Spooky Mom, Andy Teague, and Applin Ontiveros. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for yelling for the past 2 hours.
I think it's fine. So I want to thank all of you on behalf of the group, and I hope we passed our audition.
Like the film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Respect women.
Please.
Or else.
We're going to hurt people. Until next time.